Hey, welcome everybody. It's a Thursday night forum, and we are celebrating 4 years of this show. Yeah, we are in stereo. We're celebrating 4 years of this show, but first of all, we'll get into that anniversary thing. But we got to talk about Pele first. Then, sad news today, coming down of Pele's passing on at 82 years old, I believe.
Yeah, kind of, very much before my time. You know, my earliest memories is growing up as a kid. If anyone said, "Who's the best footballer in the world?" the answer was just Pele. That's what he was
Yeah,
known for. He was the face of football. You know, 3 World Cups. But as I say, before my time, did he go to play? Did he go and play in America for a bit near the end of
yeah,
his career?
yeah.
Was it
Toward
like
the end
George?
of his
It was
career,
like
he
George Best or something.
tried to revive the sport here in the States as well, in the North American Soccer League. Now, I'm only here 20 years, so what do I know about that league? And I'm not old enough to have seen Pele, but I do remember Brazil playing Ireland in a friendly very late in Liam Brady's career. And I think Liam Brady scored the only goal in that friendly, 1-0. I'm not sure if Pele, I think he played in that game, but it's a little bit before our time. 3 World Cups, and he scored a lot of goals per game, Stan.
Yeah. He played most of his career in Brazil, didn't he? I think didn't play
Yeah.
anywhere else. And I know that there are some people that would say, did he really test himself by not playing anywhere else? But he obviously wasn't playing in a weak league because the Brazil team at that time were dominant against anybody that they faced, on the international stage. And there were a lot of stars as well, other stars in the team that he played in. A lot of great names. But yeah, quite sad.
As
That,
Reedy says,
he's
Pele
built,
did play for the New
built
York
Cosmo.
Cosmos, and
Yeah, that's what I
at,
thought.
at a time when some of those elder statesmen of world soccer, world football, were coming to America to try to revive the game, bring some Hollywood appeal, I suppose, to the game. Because that's what America understands and recognizes. Uh, all of the glamour and the glitz. Born in, I think, had to be 1940. He's born now. He's 82 years old, and winning his first World Cup in 1958 as an 18-year-old. Um, of course, Mbappe would go on to win the World Cup as well as a 19-year-old. But Pepe, uh, Pele, not Pepe, added another World Cup in '62, and then in '70. So that sequence was broken by England. England winning the World Cup in '66, as you well know, Stan.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I forgot about this. I wasn't sure about the sequence. Yeah, it was at 58, 62, and 70. Yeah.
'70, yeah.
So yeah, when he won his last World Cup, I was like two.
Yeah. And I was one. So, hey, we didn't see it, right? We
No,
might have been in
exactly.
front of the screen, but we didn't see it. We were doing other things at that time. Um, but I suppose what also has to be said, Stan, about Pele is a great ambassador, not just a great of the game, a legend of the game, but a great ambassador for the game worldwide.
Well, yeah, he's one of those people. He's like Batman, isn't he? You show him, you hold his picture up, everybody sort of knows who that person is.
Yeah, yeah. And in the same month that Messi sort of confirmed his greatest of all time, there will be debates. Where it's very difficult to compare eras between football, especially over the decades. The world has lost a great ambassador for the game, a legend of the game in Pele as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Pele did play for the New York Cosmos. Rest in peace, Pele, the best to ever do it, says BX Gunner, and many people will say he is one of the best out there. Um, but the world has lost a great personality now, and he's playing with Maradona up there, isn't that what they say? Peckham Stan looks like he could be one of Andrew Tate's peoples.
See, I've seen this guy, right, popping up, but I don't know anything about him. I see this guy, Andrew Tate, and he's on shows being interviewed, and Andrew Tate's going to be on this podcast, but I don't know anything about him.
Me neither. He's
if he's good, I'll take it.
Yeah. Where's Gary, Tony, and Alonso? You're going to see it in this sequence. Probably Tony, then Gary, then Alonso. They will be joining as and when they can get to their consoles, to their monitors and desks. Pele has 10.
Has the hold on? Has the NASCAR season, is it finished or is it on?
I haven't heard much about Martin Truex.
Because if there's no NASCAR, then yeah, Alonso will be here.
He's at work right now. I do know that. Gary is doing some kind of a holiday get together. I don't think he's too happy about it. He'd rather be here. I can guarantee you that Gary.
Well, hang on. Mr. Tom said that this Andrew Tate fella, he got arrested tonight, so he's not good. Well, I can just tell you now, it wasn't me.
No, not a great guy. Andrew Tate got arrested tonight. Stan, he is not good.
Let's know what for. I'm interested. I don't know anything. I just see this guy's face. I don't know anything about him. I don't know what he's. I thought it was like an influencer on YouTube or something, or a sports guy. I don't know.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. Please hit the likes. We always appreciate those people who are in the chat box with us. You are the 12th man, maybe the first man, and maybe you're the first on the team sheet, and we're just the next names on the team sheet. I'm watching Face Off. Damn classic.
Is that the Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage in it? Or Nicolas Cage or somebody?
Yes.
And they swap the faces. Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time.
So you may that reminds me of something I did on my timeline, right?
You swap faces with Christopher. Go on.
Yeah, Erling Haaland said, "Now we are hunting Arsenal. Manchester City are hunting Arsenal." So I pulled out a GIF of Arnold Schwarzenegger, because you know what happened. The Predator You know what happened to the Predator in the end? Only the GIF I pulled up was the Commando GIF of Arnie. So I had to hold my hands up and say, "Okay, you got me there." But anyway, yeah, we're celebrating 4 years on the podcast here. I suppose we are counting the years, even though we're not counting the years. To think this foolery was going on for 3 years before I came along, LOL. So it's been a bit of a slow burner. We're doing our thing over here slowly, but surely. But we are thankful of everyone who is joining us for the podcast each and every Thursday and Sunday, and special occasions. A little bit more. He was made a national treasure as well, as they played friendlies that weren't like today's friendlies. I bet teams took playing against Santos seriously. Yeah, I think I've heard Santos touring in places as well. Okay.
They were kind of a bit like the Harlem Globetrotters, weren't they, as well?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? They were like, lots of these exhibition games and stuff like that, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, and you remember in the set, what we weren't able to view it live, but we know about that 70s, the Brazilian 70s team. There was a lot of flair, there was a lot of panache to the way they were playing. Mr. Tom said Pele had 10 assists at World Cups, apparently. He scored quite a few goals as well. As always, it's difficult to compare eras. And if Tony was here, he would tell you the World Cups have expanded from, I think, 16 teams to, what is it now, 32? So it's gotten a little bit more expansive, the competition has. Shame we won't have a repeat of last Thursday. I laughed my tits off. I wanted to get John Smythe to do a GIF of Mikel Arteta pointing to the screen and Tony saying Ainsley Maitland-Niles won the FA Cup.
Yes,
we just didn't know it, Stan. We just didn't know it.
Didn't know it.
But
Tony knew, no. Tony knew.
Tony knew. Travolta, Cage. He basically gifted people that he can teach them to be an alpha male. Okay, this is Andrew Tate, right? For a price. Okay.
Human trafficking. Jesus.
How did we get onto this Tate guy? Predator and Commando, great movies. All right, Stan. So yeah, listen, Pele, rest in peace. On to the fifth year of the podcast as well. So we're, as I said before, thankful for everybody. We're going to get through a few things tonight. We're going to talk about the West Ham game, talk about the return of Arsene. What were your thoughts? We could talk about Arsene Wenger if you want. What were your thoughts on seeing Arsene Wenger in the stadium?
I thought it was fantastic. He had to come back at some point. I'm glad that there was a gap, and we sort of spoke about this, I think, on the last show. I'm glad that it wasn't a case of, as soon as the next manager came in, like Alex Ferguson, like never left. The next manager comes in, Alex Ferguson's at the next game sitting in the stands with all the directors. It's like a spectre. The spectre is still sort of there. So I'm glad that that new management have had a time to breathe and the club's able to sort of like find itself. But I'm glad he's back and he had a warm welcome and you can see what he means to everybody. And if clubs are into giving legends of their club statues, and that's what you do, then Arsene Wenger should have one without a shadow of a doubt.
Now, what pose are you thinking? You can go for the one that you want, or you can go for one that might be a bit humorous. What kind of pose do you want Arsene Wenger to have for the statue?
Well, I don't want him to have. I don't want him to be like. I don't want it to be like a statue of him like trying to zip up his coat or anything like that. I want it to be respectful.
Yeah, I saw on my timeline as well. When he was banished to the stand up at Old Trafford, basically embarrassed. The FA, the referee embarrassed him because he was standing there amongst a ton of Mancunians, not knowing where to go and what to do, and they thought it was great fun altogether. But he's there with his hands out. Where do you want me to go? We don't want that pose either, right?
What do it for me?
We don't want him kicking a water bottle on the sideline, although he did that at Leeds. Actually, Pep did that at Leeds as well the other night as well. I just want to see him holding the Premier League trophy.
Yeah, a gold one.
Yeah. I mean, but I am glad that there is going to be a statue in the works for probably one of our greatest managers that we've ever had.
Yeah.
And the timing, I think Mikel Arteta's got to get a lot of credit here. We all talk about that first interview, Stan, and if you go back and watch that first interview, there's a checklist of things he wanted to do. I mean, the tree. We talked about the tree shaking, right? The roots are strong now.
Yes. Yeah, there was the tree shaking and a lot of talk about getting in boats as well. Everybody has to be in a boat, the same boat. Well, as I said the other day, it's more of an ocean liner now, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So the title of the podcast today is "Nobody Said It Was Easy." Arsenal top of the league. Listen, we hoped that Manchester City would go to Ellen Road, Leeds, and drop some points. But we know the fight that we're in right now. And it's a heavyweight contest that we're up against City. We're up against the Predator, Haaland. They're going to hunt us down. But as long as we keep if we're mentality monsters, this will be a big check for us if we're mentality monsters. Keep winning games, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I keep going back to the adage of if you go back to 2015 when Leicester won the league, we beat Leicester twice.
Yeah.
But they still won the league. So, why can't it be a case of that we take care of business? And even if we falter at Man City twice in the season, there's still an opportunity that we can still win the league because at this moment in time, and the league doesn't lie, we're in the driving seat.
Yeah, the Premier League is all about consistency, Stan.
Exactly. We are in the driving seat, and it's just, I think that, for me, our only bump in the road is depth. And hopefully that's going to be addressed, very soon.
In the hours and days to come.
Exactly. That's my only fear about what's happening, because even when we went behind, at West Ham, I wasn't worried. There were times before when, as soon as we went behind, I'd think to myself, well, that's it now. We're never going to be able to pull ourselves back. Their heads are going to drop. They're going to give up the ghost, and then they're going to try what they try and do again in the next match.
Mm-hmm.
And try and wipe this one as a slate clean. Whereas now, the team has the wherewithal to get in amongst themselves, to sort it out and to dig themselves out of trouble. And I wasn't bothered when we went 1-0 down. I was not like, bloody hell. I was just like, okay, don't worry about it. There'll be another couple of goals to come. So that's the confidence that they're giving me now, watching them play.
I'm going to put my hand up and say I was slightly worried at halftime. And Rule, thanks for the congrats and thanks for being here. Balogun scored a cracking goal today.
Good.
Think about if Balogun could be the third striker, Stan. Let me know a little bit. We'll stay on the performance of West Ham. I was slightly worried at halftime because we didn't show that we could break down West Ham in the final pass, the final sequence of events. We couldn't get a shot off. Erdegaard refused a couple of shots in that first half.
Yeah, but everything seemed look at the goal that was ruled out. Even though it was ruled out for offside, the movement, the way that goal was, like the way the goal came about, I saw that and I thought to myself, yeah, we're on it today. We're going to score goals today.
Yeah, and the goal we conceded did come against the run of play. I was thinking about this. William Saliba, he came in. He was a little bit rusty. He gave away the penalty. But we needed to bring William Saliba back up to speed as soon as possible.
Yeah, he's only a kid.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be mistakes to come from William Saliba. He's still going through a phase of learning, right? He's just been able to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and what I love about it is the crowd. Again, Arteta's changed the culture of the club. He's brought the supporters on board. It has taken 3 years to do this, to turn the atmosphere from losing the Manchester City 3-0 3 years ago, before Arteta came to us, to now where our fans are supporting the team. If we concede a goal, if we go a goal down, it's not doom and gloom. We're supporting the team. We know they can get back into it. Like you said, you had a very good feeling, Stan, that in the second half, Arsenal would come good and the play would come good, and we'd get the goals that we needed. BX said, "I'm glad Wenger let Arteta get a handle before gracing us again." And that grace period, it must be tough for Arsene Wenger as well to be away from something he loves for so long as well, Stan.
Yeah, but he's been kept busy, hasn't he? He's been doing World Cup at the FA. He's trying to get the World Cup played every year now, whatever. He's also been doing his punditry. He's been kept quite busy. He's still around, but it's good to see now that he goes back to see. He can go back and start watching the games at Arsenal.
Yeah, the only thing that I've always respected what Arsene Wenger had to say, but playing a World Cup every 2 years when you have players that are dead because they're playing so many games seems strange to me. Reddy said Wenger back like a crossover of our eras, especially him meeting up with the likes of Saka and Saliba. Granit Xhaka, meeting up with Granit Xhaka again. That was the Wenger signing.
Yeah, I think he's. I think only is it him and El Neni are probably the only
two. Maybe
signings.
Holding.
And
remember Holding. Sorry, he's not 50 million. Sorry, he didn't cost 50 million.
And Holding, yeah, I think they're the only three now at the club that are left over from Arsene Wenger's tenure. Yeah. I think, right?
Yeah, and albeit Granit Xhaka getting old, but he's definitely proven that the redemption of Xhaka has proven that he can stay at Arsenal this season, maybe into next season as well. BX Gunner says Wenger with the gold trophy. Mr. Tom's statue of him stood in the stands at Old Trafford. That to me, that stain, that vision is stained by the Mancunian. It's got that Mancunian stain. Wenger, the only manager to win a league title at Old Trafford, apart from Fergie. Yeah, we've won the. I'm quite proud of where we've won the leagues over the years. Anfield, Old Trafford, Shide Hart Lane twice.
Yeah.
Who's taller? You were Tonto. Tonto. One in a White Hart Lane as well. Not too bad. Won it twice as well. The ex-gunner. I rewatched the West Ham game today. We didn't panic after conceding, and more importantly, we trusted our off-the-ball movement in midfield, which has made the difference in majority of our wins. we're playing in a really good style, Stan.
Yeah.
Our
I mean,
brand of football is formidable.
Martin Odegaard for me is just fantastic, and I was saying it sort of very early on. And the only reason I said that is because when I knew that we were signing him, I went away and looked at some documentaries about him. For some reason, they've been filming him since he was a kid. Martin Odegaard, for me, ever since he was a kid, like they knew that he was going to be something. And all along the way, throughout all of the places he's played from a kid upwards, all of the coaches, they just can't say enough about how much talent they believe that he has. So for us to get him for the fee that we did, I mean, them days are over, man. You know what I mean? You only have to look at what we're being touted now for players. Them days are over. That was a very, very good deal. And it's gonna you wait and see. This kid's gonna be something completely like you've never seen before.
30 million is a snip, Stan, for Odegaard. And Real Madrid there's people in the office saying, how do we let this kid go, probably, at Real Madrid now. I mean, it's been 2 years, but Arteta and the coaching staff have really brought the best out of Odegaard in his play. Mr. Tom didn't expect Wenger and his biannual World Cup idea to fly. It was an idea you give to your boss, I guess, when you're paying you lots of money to suggest anything. You just make up things, right? You just bring ideas. I think West Ham was Odegaard's best game of the season. A good shout there, Rule. Definitely, we saw Odegaard being the most creative, cajoling us forward, trying to make things happen. Stan, was pretty obvious in that game that Odegaard was playing really well.
But these performances seem to be, almost every week now.
Yeah. In some ways, it was the perfect game, right? So you come back in the second half, you're goal down. So our mettle was tested. We were playing at home, which probably allowed us to get back into the groove. I think, thinking about it now, and we talked about this on Monday, and we thought on Thursday we'd have a little bit more ideas formulated. So I'm thinking we needed to we were a little bit ring rusty. We had some rust that we needed to knock off from the first half to the second half. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, plus they've got a different player now going through the middle, so they've got to adjust to Eddie and the way Eddie's playing as well. Yeah. But what I loved about that West Ham game was that every time when we lost the ball, we won it back so quickly. We didn't give him a second. We were very, very quick at winning the ball back, and I really hope that is something that I'm going to continue seeing more of. Because if you do that, I mean, they can't hurt you because they haven't got the ball.
Yeah, I think that's the way we play. We're trying to transition. The way we played 3 years ago compared to today is so much different. Our build-up play was so slow 3 years ago. Now we're transitioning really quickly. And Declan Rice was caught twice for both of our goals, especially the first one, Partey in a crunching tackle. Odegaard's shot feeding Saka. His mishit shot feeding Saka. A great finish there.
No, that was I told you, that was a slide rule pass to Saka.
Yeah, I thought you would have formulated your thoughts a little bit more now.
No, I'm sticking to that.
Changed your mind. You're smiling though, so I know what's happening there. Martinelli, we can give him more credit for that finish now, right? Thinking about it, that was a great finish from Martinelli.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like, how did he squeeze it through there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's another player that's just getting better and better.
We had a situation maybe where the goalkeeper had to cover the square ball, right? The 6-yard ball, the pass. And so he cheats a little bit off of his near post. And it's more of a great finish rather than the goalkeeper not being in position.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay. And then the cherry on top was Eddie, right? Scoring that goal.
Yeah, and that was a good goal as well. The way that he managed to like roll himself, he kind of like, if you see when he gets the ball, he puts his arm out because he wants to kind of like feel, now where is this guy? Do you know what I mean? If he's on one side, I'm going to go one way. But if he's on that side and you see him feel and he puts his other arm out and he rolls the opposite way, and he does it all very quickly. It all
And
happens.
it's all
happens
based.
very smoothly.
And it's all based off of the pace that Erdegaard plays that ball to his left side, let's say, as he's facing the ball, he's on his left. And like you say, he knows where the defender is. He rolls the defender. Now he's in a position to take the shot, and you got to give him credit, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking about this the last few podcasts, which is harder, getting into the position to have that shot or actually the finish. You know what I mean? And
That
both things are true.
In that particular moment, you know, neither part of it was easy.
Yeah.
You know,
he
could have easily have rolled the defender, and you know that ball could have just gone wide, just grazing the post.
Yeah.
You know,
we have seen other more high profile players in the Premier League miss opportunities like that. I'm thinking about Nunes, Darwin. He struggled a little bit with all the chances he's getting with Liverpool.
I've not really been watching them, but I mean, I don't even know what his figures are. I thought they weren't too shabby.
No, you know what? His numbers are not too shabby. He is scoring goals, but the profile, the misses are what people are honing in on.
Right.
Xhaka almost scoring with his right foot could have been another Erdegaard assist. Our first goal comes after Partey's tackle on Rice to win it back. So that's the transitioning. I was talking about center back Gabriel played some lovely disguised passing, and Mr. Blanco was outstanding. So I honed in on Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard because rightly so, I thought they were outstanding. But as Rule says here, Mr. Blanco, Mr. Benjamin White, wasn't too shabby, right?
He puts in a lot of consistent performances. You know, does he ever go below a 7? I don't think so.
Maybe an 8.
I don't remember him going below a 7.
Do you know someone else I've been thinking about in the same way?
Bit like Monreal, wasn't it? A bit like Monreal, who used to play on the left. You know, it was just a very steady player every game.
Now that you're speaking about someone on the left back position, I've been thinking about Kieran Tierney, right? I don't think his levels have ever dropped. I think Kieran Tierney has been very consistent. I think Kieran Tierney has stayed at this level constantly. 3 years ago, the rest of the players were kind of below him, but most of those players have now improved so much. Tierney's still at this level, but all of these other players, Saka, Martinelli, Partey, Granit Xhaka, are just excelling. So, by contrast, Kieran Tierney looks like he's struggling. But is he struggling?
Every time somebody bumps into him and he goes down on the floor, I wince. I'm almost like, is he going to get stretched off here? Is he going to have to hobble off? You know, he seems to take his knocks quite painfully as well. You know, he doesn't take a knock and get straight back up. He seems to sort of like always be like, looks like he's in a bit of pain. And that does worry me about him. But there's been a lot of people talking about how him and Zinchenko play the game very differently, whereas, you know, Tierney is more of a traditional coming up on the outside, you know, maybe overlapping on the winger and getting a crossing, whereas there seems to be a lot of stock in the way that Mikel Arteta likes the fullback to come in and more inverted. But I think I've seen Kieran Tierney willing to adapt to that. You know, he's trying to add that to his game, which shows me that he's a player that's willing to evolve. He's not just saying, well, that ain't my game. I'm an overlapping winger, left back. That's what I do. You know, he's trying to adjust himself to make him to be continually useful for the team. And, you know, that's good. You know, I'm a big Kieran Tierney fan, but I like what Zinchenko does as well. It's good to be in a position where we have, you know, two players that can come into that position, and there isn't a big drop off at all.
Yeah, and they give you a little bit of something different as well. What's up, Lolo? Thanks for joining us as well in the house. Brady said Eddie also made a couple of excellent turns in the first half, but not the right decision making. Then, of course, his second half turn and the finish. Credit to Ben White in the build up. The thing about Kieran Tierney, I feel Mikel Arteta values him, but I think he values what Zinchenko can give him, just a little bit more. Now, that means Tierney is a really valuable squad player, Stan.
Oh, of course. And as I say, if he's willing to adapt his game, if anything does happen to Zinchenko, as I say, there's not going to be a drop off, or we aren't going to have to, sort of like relook at how we play our game on that side.
The other thing I really liked about the game yesterday, Monday, we beat West Ham coming back from after World Cup break. I think it was 44 days out. We sort of synced up again. Those players who have been playing the World Cup and those players who have been, in Dubai doing the warm weather training, we synced up. We got back on the same levels. Great to have that win, but I also thought it was really good sort of psychologically for our rivals. We go 1-0 down. Manchester City fans, you must have been thinking, hold on here. Arsenal could drop some points here.
Oh, yeah. I said this, I think it was on Sunday, that the pundits went to that game armed with 2 scripts. Had we not won that game, you would have heard, like, it would have been like, Arsenal fumbled it. They're definitely now going to have to go into the transfer market to have to get another striker. It was too much for them, little old Arsenal. But we won that game, and the way that the pundits have been singing about Arsenal, I don't let it go to my head. I'm just like, yeah, whatever, because I know that as soon as you drop the ball, they change so quickly.
Do you know the other thing I'm thinking, Stan? There's no pressure. Arsenal should not feel pressure as fans or the team, because everybody expects Manchester City to get past us in the end. Is there pressure on Arsenal? Is there pressure on the players?
I don't feel it. Even though I'm enjoying where we are in the league, I mean, this is beyond my wildest expectations. This is not what I would have said was going to be happening when we spoke pre-season.
No way. Nobody.
Do you know what I mean? Is there anybody out there that can bring up a stub from a betting shop from before the season started, where they put money down saying that Arsenal would win the league? And I'm not talking about just putting down a quid either.
Yeah.
Not just a quid. I'm talking about putting down, maybe a 50 on it or something like that. I'd love to see if anyone has, and I'd love to see what the odds are.
I think
fair play to them.
I think it might have been 80 or 100 to 1, but I'm not sure. But at the beginning of the season, for Arsenal to win the league, it was probably like the top 4 was the limit of our expectations at the start of the season. If we get 3rd, we get 4th. That's progression from 5th last year. But yeah, I think some people would invest some money just on the off chance. Leicester, 5,000 to 1, Leicester were.
When I look at this season and where we are now, I think to myself, it's a little bit like that season. That season when Leicester won the league, I think, was our best opportunity, Arsenal's best opportunity to get another Premier League title, because there was a lot of things going on at the other clubs around us which are considered our competition.
Yeah.
We still had a bit of a firm structure. And I look at what's happening this season, and I feel that if we can't maybe pip Man City to the post this season, then it doesn't necessarily mean that we can give them a good run, the league a good run for its money next season, because you only have to look at Chelsea, for example. They've been very quietly going about their business, and they've spent around £80 million already on talent under the age of 21. And you've got to think that I think a lot of managers and coaches and, the training structures at clubs are looking at Arsenal at the moment and saying, what's happening over at Arsenal? Why are they being so successful? And I think that they're probably looking at the trend and what we're doing with youngsters, and that trend is being sort of like copied by other clubs, because they spent 80 million already, and that's just on the youngsters. They're going to probably be dropping a lot more money on a few, names, marquee names, and they've got so much money to spend. Whereas we haven't. Although we've spent a lot of money, we don't have that constant flow coming down to us, like they do at Chelsea.
Yeah.
I know that if we go big in January, you've got to think that if we go big in January, then we're kind of in an overdraft situation whereby we've taken maybe some of our capital from the summer and brought it into January, because there's a big push here.
Yeah.
There's a big push.
We'll get into the transfers in a little bit as well. I'm about to buy my Eddie jersey after that goal. Nobody stopped me. Listen, This is what we wanted, BX Gunner. We were not here slagging off Eddie and Kadia. We were here saying everything's set for you. The table's set for you now, Eddie. You can feast. That's what we were saying.
Yeah, when everybody was saying, oh, we should buy this striker and buy that striker when Gabriel Jesus got injured, I was on Twitter saying, we can't just hide Eddie away. We can't just pretend he doesn't exist. We've given him the money, which gives him the position in the team to be that backup striker. We've given him the shirt number. He's been coming on off the bench. What now? Because Gabriel Jesus is injured, we've got to pretend that Eddie's not there. No, I'd rather know. I said I would rather know now and sooner than later whether he's up for the job, rather than just keeping him in the cupboard and only pulling him out for anniversaries.
Yeah,
Tony, and so far so good. One start under this new little patch that he's going to have. One goal and a good one as well.
Okay, so before we get into the transfers, I just want to get your take on who should we be targeting? Should it be a forward, should it be a winger, or should it be a striker?
Well, I was always of the opinion that when we and I know that you guys have heard me say this before, is that when we sold both Aubameyang and Lacazette, only one came in. Two go out, one come in. Maths isn't my strongest subject, but that's not good math. You know what I mean? That doesn't add up. So I always felt that we were slightly shortchanged there, and then by sending Balogun on loan, that only emphasises the point in that area. So I was kind of thinking, well, we do need to go and buy a striker. But then my thinking was, are we buying a striker that's going to come in, that's going to slot in the pecking order between Jesus and Eddie? Or are we going to buy a striker that slots in between Eddie and Balogun? But then if you look at the links that we've had with wingers, and obviously we're going to talk probably about Mudryk in more detail, but you look at the links there, and then I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe the thinking is you buy a winger that's going to help create and score goals, and that could maybe give Martinelli an opportunity to cover in that position for Eddie, because Eddie's not going to play he's not going to be able to play every minute. So there's a couple of options. So I was initially I was thinking we needed a striker, but I get it if we're going to buy a winger and they're thinking that somebody else within us is going to fill in there. But we need a midfielder. I think that's an area where we are really on a knife edge. If we get a knock to party, who's had some injuries with us already. He's not shy of an injury. I worry what happens there for the longer term, because if we put Xhaka in that position, then does that mean that we're going back to the old Xhaka that everybody used to be split upon, where he's nearer to our goal, and that gives him the opportunity to make the mistakes, which he's made mistakes in the past. He's playing well where he is now. Do you see what I mean? Or do we put Sambi Lokonga in there, who looks like it's still a little bit out of his depth? And we're in the middle, and we've got Elneny as well, who I like, and is good cover. But we're in a position where we are at the top of the league, and we need to maintain that. And I think that's a position that could really hobble us if it gets, if we lose something.
I look at it this way: we may never be in this position again. We may never be. Well, never. Not for the next 3-4 years. We may not be in this position again. A Liverpool team is struggling, a Newcastle team that's playing really well, but are they? I don't know if they're equipped to go. To call them a 3-horse race.
Here's how I look at it, right, Ray. Right, in that interview with Jamie Carragher, right, that was on the other week, right, Jamie Carragher, right, he asked Mikel, didn't he? He said, when you came in, what did you have a plan? What was the schedule and blah blah blah? He said, yeah, there's like a 5-year plan. And he asked him, he said, and where are you in the plan? Are you ahead of where you wanted to be, or behind? And he sort of smiled and he said, we're ahead. So I would like to think then that, when he came in as a manager and he presented this plan to the owners, to the board, which was obviously, I would imagine, part of his interview process. So what are you going to do for us then? Then he lays it all out, right? Gets out the plan, shows them and that. If everybody at Arsenal is agreeing and looking at Mikel Arteta and saying, we're actually ahead by, 2.5 years of where we thought we would be, then shouldn't that not facilitate reward? You know, if you look at the plan and you say, at this point, we'll invest this amount, and then at this, we're going to do this amount. And then in 5 years, if you're ahead, then shouldn't you maybe need to invest more, right? To maintain that push.
Yeah.
You know, you don't take your foot off the gas, do you?
It was interesting. Both Stan and Josh were at the game as well as Arsene Wenger. And listen, Stan and Josh are the ones with the checkbooks. And I think they're going to support Arsenal and the team in getting the players in.
I can imagine it was probably a case of, because I think Josh is probably the conduit between, you know, Arsenal and his dad, right? And he's going back saying, "Oh, Dad, you want to see it in training? The lads are brilliant. Oh, it's great, Dad. And you know, we're going to need more money, Dad, and blah blah blah." And his old man is like, "Well, I don't know, you know." And he's like, "Look, just come over and have a look. Come over and have a look." And I bet they're all praying that, you know, his dad's going to come over and have a look at us play against West Ham. Please don't have a nightmare. Do you know what I mean? So it's probably a good one for him to come and take a look at. You know, this is where we are.
What do you like? The Kroenkes are not. You can argue they're not the worst owners in the Premier League right now.
Mate, you know, some teams had to put up with Mike Ashley.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? As their owner.
Exactly. Really said, Ben White is one of our most trusted players, especially in possession inside the opponent's half. This is you're collecting your receipts now, Mr. Tom here, and you do. We're going to give you props here. You all laughed at me when I said Ben White would come good. Laughed. Listen, he was very good right-sided central defender last season, but I think his play, like much of the team, has gone up a few notches as well.
And it's very handy knowing that if push comes to shove, he can play another position.
Go back in there, yeah. The standard changed to 3-5-2 after Zinchenko came on with Tierney, and this is the team, and this team is just assembled. Many years to grow. We're the youngest average age team. Our goals have changed, not top four, but to win the league. Rule, you're exactly right. The only thing that gives me pause for that is you get criticized at the end of the season because you're ahead of the curve, Stan, and you just missed top four last season. You get criticized, you get bantered. You're ahead of the curve this season, and we have a title challenge going on. And what happens if we just get pipped at the post? We get bantered for that, but we have to take that, right? Squarely on the shoulders.
There's always going to be banter from the outside, but I think at this moment in time, everybody within, everybody here, everybody that's part of the Arsenal fan base, I think should. I mean, I just saw Thunder's comment there. Missing persons alert still out for you're not. Hasn't been here for a while.
Why not? Exactly.
Yeah, he hasn't been here for the last couple of shows.
Yeah, it was all good until. Oh no!
But you know, if you are listening, if you're out there and you're listening,
you're welcome.
Why not?
Come on back.
Come and join the party, man. This is
the
time. Over. The war is over. Do you know what I mean? The war is over. Lay down your rifles, man, and just come in.
What do we call it? The Liechtensteiner jungle.
The Liechtensteiner effect.
Fiji Islands. Come on back. It's okay. Why
so,
not?
in case everyone wants to know what I'm talking about, there, when we had Liechtensteiner as our player, he used to remind me the way that he used to go into his tackles. It used to remind me of, you know, those like Japanese soldiers where they no one told them that the war finished. They just left them in the jungle, and if you happen to walk past them, they just jump out at you and start shooting you.
Their mission was their mission.
Yeah, they didn't. No one told him. No one told Steven Liechtensteiner that the war was over. In my eyes, but I digress.
Yeah, Ben White had his doubts because of his price tag.
Of course, I don't really much about him.
Come good. Feel even better now watching him flourish. Let's talk about the price tags of the players, Stan. We've picked up the last 2 seasons. We've picked up players for maybe 5-10 million less than going rate for a lot of the players.
I don't know. Do you think so? I mean, I think it kind of. Yeah, we got a good deal there with Odegaard, but then again, if you think of it, another way of looking at that is it's like we paid almost the same money for Teabag as we did for Odegaard.
Yeah.
So does that mean that Teabag was the going rate and we were lucky to get? Do you know what I mean? We got Odegaard at a cut price, or did we overpay for Teabag? It all depends how you want to look at it, right? But it seems that we have it seems that our average kind of our sweet spot at the moment seems to be around about 40-45 million, isn't it? You know, that seems to be the sweet spot with the odd 50, Thomas Partey and Benny Blanco notwithstanding.
We're slightly teetering on the transfers, but we're going to get to that point. Notwithstanding, I was thinking a few seconds ago when we were talking about Lichtsteiner, when you were going to throw that one in there, Stan. Balogun looks like he's come back. A very good striker. Forget Jonathan David. Stan, are you coming around to the idea maybe that loan for Balogun is going to do him the world of good, and maybe, just maybe next season?
Well, you say, am I coming? You say, am I coming? You say, am I coming round to it? Like I was against it.
Well, do you want? No, I'm not saying you're against it.
And I wasn't.
Market.
I never, I mentioned as a devil's advocate on the show about him coming back from loan, but that was to play devil's advocate. I'm of the opinion that after what I've seen with William Saliba, and how you keep players going out on loan, I don't want to break that. If he's having a good little time at where he is now, then I think that you should keep that. Obviously, if you send a player out on loan and it's halfway through the season and they're not getting any game time, that's when you bring them back.
He's honing his.
If he's only going to train at that club, then he may as well train with us, with his teammates. Do you know what I mean? If he's not going to get game time, so I'm all for leaving Balogun to complete his loan, and hopefully, it's like William Saliba 2.0 when he comes back.
Yeah, I think we had been poor. Basically, the whole club had been poor 3 years ago. We've got our act together in the last two years, 18 months. Our loans were terrible. We weren't getting anything for them. Possibility we could get money for Pepe now.
And you'd always hear things about our players would go out on loan, and then you'd hear reports that the team where they're on loan are going, they're fucking shit, not even fit. Do you know what I mean? They're like,
send them back. Yeah. Well, now we're finding good. Ever since the Joe Willock loan, we got some money from that. We've been finding the right club for the right player. Balogun's having a good time now, honing his skills.
And Patino's having a good time, I hear, as well. Where he is? Where is he at? Where is he? Huddersfield, is he?
Blackpool, I think. Yeah. Possibility we're talking about signings, but we could also think in the next season some of these younger players could come and join the ranks. Patino, Balogun, fill some spots in the squad.
Right, just keep talking because I need to grab a beer out of the fridge because my mouth's getting dry.
We'll get through some more comments here. We need 3 signings as simple as that. A winger and 2 midfielders should be good enough to maintain the title challenge. Really, I'd love to get 2 midfielders and a winger. I just think we're going to get 1 midfielder and a winger. And we all know maybe that winger could be Mudryk. But I want to know where your limits are. I think Arsenal should come back with his second bid for Mudryk. But we can't mess around. It can't be more than a second bid. It'll have to be, we sweeten the deal a little bit more for me and take the second bid, Shakhtar, and let's get the player that we have identified, Mikel Arteta has identified, and bring in that profile of player, a winger. They laughed at me too, Tom. I said, just wait, 50 million will end up being a bargain for Benny Blanco. When you're talking about Aaron Wan-Bissaka for 50 million, compare him to Ben White. There's no comparison there at all. Rule said, listen, the club is going for it. If we fail, to go again. If we fail, we go again. Yeah, exactly. And what I'm most happy about, Rule, is Arteta or Edu, or if it's a combination of both, they've started to identify the right players. You cannot, there's no way you can identify the correct players 100% of the time. There's going to be
gone are the days where we like second week in January and like the transfer department's like, should we? I suppose you better get cracking then, huh? Make something happen.
Yeah, we're starting to move. Not like Liverpool. We're not moving like Liverpool because apparently Liverpool put the money down and get their player.
Like a year in advance. They're like layaway.
Cody Gakpo for 50 million with add-ons and 37.
No, it was 37 million, wasn't it, with add-ons, bringing it up to
50 all in.
See, I mean, we're kind of we're wandering into the realm. We can't hold back any further. We're wandering into transfer realm. We keep skirting around.
We're getting there, but I do want to also talk about. We can dance around.
You keep pulling me back on the reins.
I'm I'm enjoying the title race. Listen, we were a little bit reticent before the World Cup break to call it a title race. We can't shy away from it now. It's a title race.
I think that because we had the break, right? That break. I mean, it's not technically halfway. It's because we had the break, but because we had the break and we've come back, it's like a part 2. Had we had come back and just fallen miserably, I think that would have. I think you'd have a lot of people would have enjoyed pointing their fingers and saying that it was just a fluke all along. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I saw somebody today, a Man United fan. He posted a picture of Gabriel Jesus, right, and he said that the flop that no one is talking about. And I just retweeted it with a picture above it of Anthony and Jadon Sancho. And I just said the flops that people are talking about.
Yeah.
So you got to put your flag in the ground sometimes, you got to do a tone.
Make no mistake, they weren't talking about, we've been talking about Gabriel Jesus not scoring goals, but they don't see that he's had brought other things to the table and has made us play. Gary hates when I talk about Nketiah stepping into the shoes. He can't fill Gabriel Jesus' shoes, but the team has now adapted to Eddie himself, not the replacement of Gabriel Jesus. You know what I mean?
But Eddie trains with him every day. It's not a case like up until this point, Eddie's been on another pitch, 2 pitches away with the 12-year-olds, and he can only see the first team at a distance. They know his movement. He knows how they play. He's told us that he wants to start games. He's starting games now. He started that one the other day. He scored the goal. And I think that hasn't he got, as bad as he has looked in points, he does have a, it's like something like 11 and 11 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit, sometimes can be a little bit deceiving, but I still stand by there have been points in the season where I've thought to myself, you do sometimes, he does what I would consider the hardest bits. He takes care of that, and when he's only left with a tap in or just one-on-one, sometimes he fluffs it, and that has annoyed me, but long may he continue what he started in that last game, as far as I'm concerned. Because nothing would be better than if we win the league, and when he gets his medal, he's not getting it as a bit part player just because he was part of the squad. He gets it because he made a proper contribution.
Yeah, we want him to make a contribution like Gabriel Jesus won a medal with City, many medals with City.
It's like if you're an international player, right, and you get picked for your country and you go off to a tournament and you never get any minutes, never come off the bench or anything, and your team wins the medal, the trophy, do you count yourself as part of it? I mean, you're going to get a medal in that, but there's no footage of you doing anything.
That would have been like Saliba if he'd have gone all the way with France, won the thing.
He got some minutes, but he did get some minutes, right? He came off the bench. He got into the trenches with his teammates and made a contribution. So he can say that, I went to the World Cup and I played in the World Cup, therefore I should wear the medal. But I'm getting at, right? If you just go along, you'd be like, well.
Yeah. Really said, I had my doubts on Josh, but got to give it to him for making an effort to learn our football culture in this country and getting himself up to terms with expectations and standards. We listen, it's funny when we weren't playing well, when the team wasn't doing well, you feel suspicious about Josh Kroenke. You feel suspicious about it's just the PR, it's the schmarmy guy in the suit with a nice beard, well groomed. But now things are going well. He's a good guy, you know what I mean? And that's not to denigrate you, really, and this is the fan base. And maybe we have all thought this way about Josh Kroenke.
I think Josh Kroenke, Stan Kroenke have really, especially after the Super League thing, they've really gone out of their way to ingratiate themselves with the fans. It's like me and my missus, right? My missus is Canadian, as you know, right? But she's really fascinated about English royalty and what it's all about. And we've been watching episodes of Monarchy with David Starkey, which I love. I've seen that series a few times. But one of the ones was there was the king, right, who was responsible for the death of Thomas a Becket. He said, I can't remember which king it was, but he said, "Well, no one rid me of this man." And two of his buddies took that as a literal order, got on their horses and went off and killed him. When he found out, You know, he walked through the
Soldier
streets.
in the
He
soldier
walked
in
through
the
the
jungle
streets,
again.
whipping himself. You know, as a king, whipping himself. People were throwing stuff at him, and then he laid on the heads, you know, by the grave of Thomas Becket on the concrete floor for 3 days to appease himself to the people. And it's almost a little bit like the Cronkies. You know, it's almost like they've walked through the streets and everyone's been allowed to shame, and they've taken it on the chin, and they've come back.
Wow.
They've come back as better rulers for it,
Yeah.
to be honest, you know. And I'm happy that there are owners at the moment, you know. And even if it comes to a time when they decide to sell, at least it seems to me that they want to sell a good asset, which would be enticing for somebody to want to buy. They're not just letting it dwindle. They're not letting it stagnate and just taking out their dividends to line their own pockets.
You look around the league. FSG have polished the Liverpool and Anfield and Melrose, I think it is, into a nice diamond now, and they can sell it. The Glazers have turned the thing upside down, and they just want to get rid of the worst gaff in the place.
Yeah. It's like when you sell a car, but you can't buy it to drive it. You can only buy it for parts.
That's what Manchester United have done to it. Lolo said Balogun is getting the Saliba treatment.
Yeah.
Send out a Mustang and going to get back.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's learned his trade. He scored a great goal today. And we saw flashes of it 2 years ago when the contract negotiations were coming up. He played in the Europa League, and we saw some flashes of things that he could do for us. Let Balogun continue the good work at Reims. He needs playing in, week out there. I'm glad this show is back, something to listen to while I compile my betting picks for On the Stoop with Lolo, live in 21 hours and 30 minutes as of the time of writing.
I sense a plug there. But one that's always welcome. And yeah, guys, if you don't know about it, on the Friday, Lolo and his guys on the Stoop do the happy hour. So tune in.
Mm-hmm.
Quizzes and lots of football banter.
I got to get back to having a beer in my hand as well on Thursday nights. You know what I mean? This is kind of our happy hour right now, Stan. And it can't be happier right now. The only thing that would make it happier is a trophy or two at the end of the season in May. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm still excited. I'm still excited about the Europa League as well. You know, I'm a completionist. You know, I want to have everything. You know, and I would nothing would make it better for me than if we could win the Europa League. If
we could check off 2 boxes of winning a European competition, past the quarter of a century, 93, we won the last one, and also that drought of the title going on 19 years. That would be 2 massive ticks. But of course, getting way ahead of myself, and Manchester City are that check that will bring me back to reality at times. You know what I mean? I'd bring Balogun back and let his form continue here. He'll play every week. This is the thing, BX. We have to trust not so much the process, but trust Arteta. I think he's got the grips with this managing business. Him, Edu, and the club are being run in a good fashion now. No more than 70 million.
Don't you have to have circumstances as well to recall a player, or if you've got a player there, they're not getting into the team, then I suppose it's easy to recall them, right? But if you've got somebody that's making a contribution week in, week out, can you just recall them? Are there circumstances? I mean, we did it with Coquelin that year, didn't we? At Cheltenham. No, Charlton. Remember, we were really thin in the midfield. We recalled Coquelin, and he really hit it off, didn't he, with Santi Cazorla?
I think you can only do it during the window, obviously. We're talking about the level. So how far do you go for Mudryk, Stan? 70 sounds about right to me.
All right. So you've been easing me away from transfers, and you just like
I'm gonna pull you back a little bit as well. We're gonna go in and out a little bit.
So you want to talk about this Mykhailo Mudryk? So here's my opinion on this whole situation. I've been giving it a bit of thought, and to me, this is from my own personal experience. It kind of reminds me of how I felt about when we signed Nicolas Pepe, and I'll explain. When Nicolas Pepe came out, that Arsenal in talks for Nicolas Pepe, right? I didn't really know who Nicolas Pepe was. I thought I'd heard the name out in France, didn't know nothing about him. But everywhere I looked on social media, it was we're signing Nicola Pepe, we're signing him for 72 million. It's a record signing. And I kind of got swept up in it. Before I knew where I was, before I even knew anything about him, I was going, we're going to sign Nicola Pepe. We're going to sign Nicola Pepe for £72 million. And I didn't know nothing about the guy. And, you know, his get to the end of Nicola Pepe's story, he hasn't really left me as enthusiastic as I was about him coming to the club. And fast forward now to Mykhailo Mudryk, I'm in a similar situation. I don't watch the Ukrainian league. I don't watch Shakhtar Donetsk play, right? As far as I'm aware, that's the only league that he's played in. You know, his flashes in the Champions League, notwithstanding. And again, I never watched much of Shakhtar Donetsk in the Champions League. So I feel a little bit, again, when I look on social media and I see people talking about him, we need to get this guy and blah, blah, blah. I think to myself then, so have you watched this guy then? And you're like, does he excite you? Have you been watching Shakhtar Donetsk frequently? Maybe they have. Do you know what I mean? But maybe they haven't. So I'm just wary of getting wrapped up in the hysteria like I did for Nicola Pepe.
My exposure to Mudryk, and I want to call him Baldrick so much.
Baldrick.
It's going to be his nickname.
I can get behind that.
Everybody knows Blackadder, right? But Rule says, I think we need a striker. No disrespect to Eddie, but I think we need someone with different attributes that allow us to change to plan B or C. Tony agrees with this, but I think
really, and there's a surprise.
We do not play. We play plan A all the time, which is possession based. I don't think we deviate too much. We change our formation. Rule. I just don't think that Arteta is going to go with a plan B. The thing about Baldrick was Shakhtar Donetsk really played well in Champions League, and I saw Mudryk in the Champions League, and he scored quite a few goals, Stan. I think 3 or 4 goals in the Champions League. I'm basing it on the levels there in the Champions League. If he can reach the levels of Champions League, I think he can cut it in the Premier League as well.
Let me ask you a question then, right? If you put up Mykhailo Baldrick against Cody Gakpo, which one of those two players would you say is the less of a risk to bring into Arsenal? What would you say?
It's hard to know, but obviously you would think going from the Dutch league to the Premier League would be an easier fit for that player. We've seen it before with the likes of Bergkamp and Overmars and Van Bronckhorst, even at Arsenal.
A team captain as well.
Dutch players seem to do well in the Premier League.
A team captain as well, had good outings in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Didn't look too shabby from the clips and bits that I saw from the World Cup. But then look at the price tags for both of them.
Exactly.
It's miles apart, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is absolutely the Grand Canyon, man.
20 million apart?
Well, what 37 and plus some add-ons.
It's got to be 50.
And we what did we offer? We offered 40 million euros and 20 million add-ons.
Yeah.
Right, at 60 million euros. And they're saying like that's not even close. And they're talking about Jack Grealish money.
Yeah, but you know that they're not going to get what they want, right? But also, they haven't accepted what we've offered.
But then, you'd have to think, right, that if they're saying, well, no, 60 is not enough, yeah, and that 40 million cash figure, we want a bigger cash figure, right, if we're talking that. And they're coming out and they're saying, we think that this guy's, we're talking Anthony and Grealish, but that fucking Anthony, that fucked us up, that did. They fucking went out and bought that Anthony from fucking Ajax for £80 million. I mean, Jesus Christ.
You see what happened here now? The Manchester clubs have inflated the market. City have overspent, and United have been overspending for years.
But then Liverpool still managed to go and get a good deal with Cody Gakpo. So if they're saying what our first offer, it wasn't enough, and they're still and they're publicly saying 100 million euros, right? Then you've got to think that if there's going to be any negotiation, and they're saying 100, it's going to be about 80 then, right?
I think we shouldn't go more than 70. I think somebody put 70 in here.
So you're looking at what, 60 down in cash with 20 million in add-ons. That's what I reckon is what they're angling at. You know, they're saying 100. We're saying, well, no. Do you know what I'm saying? They're not going to go much below 80. I don't think euros. That is, and
listen.
And I don't know about that, man.
Stan, you're buying a car, right? And you're the only one buying the car, and you're about to walk away. The salesman's not going to let you leave. You know, the car salesman's not going to let you leave.
The only thing that one thing that we have in our favor, it's not like a case of he's up for sale and there's like 3 clubs and the club are going to, you know, talk to the 3 clubs and they're going to choose the deal, you know, which they like the most, and that player's going to go there. This player's basically said Arsenal or nothing.
He wants Arsenal.
You know, and he wants Arsenal, so that helps.
Seen his Instagram post showing, and Nketiah scoring is showing the game he's watching. Arsenal at home to West Ham on Monday. Brady says 55 plus 10 add-ons and 5 performance-related.
So listen, what I guess I'm saying about Mykhailo Mudryk is that as exciting as he sounds and what I'm hearing about him, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, with my 2 eyes or 4 eyes, depending on what you want to say, I don't know any of that to be true. Do you see what I'm getting at? Yeah, I'm only hearing what I like with Nicola Pepe. I don't know of any of that to be true. Yeah, I can watch YouTube compilations. They're YouTube compilations. Do you know what I'm getting at?
But here's
so hold on. Let me just say, even though it's not my money, or the people say, "What do you care? It's not your money," but you still have a concern about if you see, well, 80 million is going to be invested over there, when you could take that 80 million and invest 40 there and 40 there. And I'm just using that hypothetically. You know, I have thoughts like that, right? So I'm a little bit concerned. Obviously, Mikel Arteta and they know much more about this player than YouTube videos, right? Mm-hmm. And they've obviously spoken to people and got to know about his personality and stuff like that. But for me, it kind of concerns me because I don't have anything to go on with the player. And I look at other players out there in the position that he plays, which I think that I know more about and seem like a better deal. I'll name a couple. Ferran Torres, there's one. Played in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? And the only reason that he'd be going from Barcelona is because they've got money problems. It's not because they don't want him. Proven. Proven. Rafael Leao, there's another one.
Rafinha. Speaking of Rafinha, is he coming back? LOL, says BX Gunner. Here's my counter to all of that, Stan, okay? Mikel Arteta has identified the player, so I trust that's the profile of player they want to bring in. Not just going off of YouTube compilations, although I've been watching that. The level of competition in the Champions League is approximate to what you're going to get in the Premier League. You know, we're going to be playing in the Champions League hopefully next season, and that's the type of teams that Shakhtar have been coming up against. And Mudryk has not been scoring in those games. He's been scoring against Celtic. I think he got a couple of goals against Celtic.
Okay, well, that's not much to write about. My
I thought you might say that. But, you know, I think that we are between a rock and a hard place, as Rule says here. Arsenal between a rock and a hard place with Mudryk, who I think we could have got for less than 50 in last summer. We know a little bit more about him. His profile is higher now, Rule, so it's a little bit more difficult. The other thing, Stan, I don't want to do is get to a situation where he becomes Arsenal's record signing. You know, we don't want to go past what we paid for Pepe. So the media get a hold of this and say, Arsenal's record signing failed to score in his first game playing for Arsenal. Yeah. You know, we don't want to get to. I think we have some room with where our bid is.
So we'll give him 71 and 99.
Yeah.
So make it a penny under.
I just don't want it to be officially the record, the Arsenal record signing. I think, as I said earlier, we saved some money with Gabriel Jesus, with Erdegaard, with Zinchenko. We paid a little bit under the odds for a lot of players, so we can afford to splurge a little bit in January.
Yeah. And I think that we're going to be overdrawing from the summer. You know, the plan has changed, and so maybe funds from the summer will be allocated for January if we can get the right deals done. I mean, what's the other one that's been going up out there is João Felix.
Felix, yeah.
João Felix. So I was hearing so to tie in with that one, right? Is was it Cedric Suarez is could be in a, as they like to call it in the papers, a tug of war between Fulham and Atletico Madrid, right? So I know it's not a football manager. I know it's not a football manager, but sometimes my mind kind of thinks about, well, isn't there a way that you can do a deal there? Like if they're saying, well, we'll allow Felix to go out on loan with no obligation to buy, which I actually prefer having no obligation to buy. I prefer that in a way, because then, you know, if things don't work out, you have to buy the guy, right? No obligation to buy. And they were asking for a loan fee of around 8 million and cover the wages, right? And his wages are quite, you know, the like, was it 200 maybe? I'm not sure.
Hefty, right?
So then that's like you're renting a player.
Double O slice.
Well, you're renting a player for like 8 million. And, you know, it does take a player, especially coming over from Spain, he's going to have to settle in. No guarantees will hit the ground running. But then I'm thinking, well, if they want Cedric Suarez, how much would you value Suarez at? He's got to be worth the 8 million that they want for the loan deal. It's got to be worth the 8 million. So you just say, listen. So you just say, look, here's Cedric Suarez. You scrap the 8 million. We'll have him. You know what I mean? We're no longer paying Suarez's salary, and his salary can then be transferred over to the Felix with a little bit more added in. I know it's a bit more complicated to do things like that, but where there's a will, there's a way. Because why couldn't we get something like Mikhail Modric for say 60 million? Yeah, we get a loan deal for Felix as well, and using the scenario as using say Cedric Suarez as a make weight. Hopefully Cedric wants to go there, right? And then you still have money to bring in a midfielder. You could bring in three people. You could bring three players in then, a midfielder, a winger, and a player in Felix who's comfortable playing anywhere across the front.
Yeah. I'm conflicted on João Felix. Why? I think because I can think both ways on him. I think he's too lightweight for the Premier League. I don't think he'll be a success. Other times I'm thinking he's got the skill set. He could transform us.
Simeone will not allow him to go past the halfway line over at Atletico Madrid. So that, you know, he's a peg that's in the wrong hole over there. And I think that someone like Mikel Arteta would unleash the power of João Felix.
Okay.
You know, I mean,
yeah, I believe in Arteta. Well, you know, the belief has become stronger and stronger as he surpassed expectations throughout this season. BX Kenner says, anyone seen Kanga from Red Star Belgrade? He played very well in the Champions League. Haven't seen him.
No, don't know that player, but I'll look out for him.
These are names that the media are linking to us, but until
really,
yeah, well, maybe I don't know.
Here's the latest one I read. Did you see that? What I sent to you before the show? Karim Benzema.
Yes.
Apparently, Karim Benzema being considered by Arsenal and Man United because his contract's coming up, isn't it?
It's silly season, so you kind of have to pick the bones out of things.
Probably a story to help him get an improved contract at Real Madrid because he wants 2 years and maybe they're only going to offer him 1. You know,
it's the time of year where I know you forwarded it to me, and I don't know if you really believe it, but Tony would forward it to me and maybe believe that this is going to happen. You know what I mean? Karim Benzema, 5 to 7 million is the stuff of Cedric. If we can get 5 to 7 million for Cedric, that would prove to me that we are getting better at negotiating. The loan fee plus wages, they say, comes up to 22 million for João Felix.
Wow.
We're going to make profit on a 30 plus defender. What a time to be alive. Ready. We're no longer going to be writing contracts off, Stan. We have to get some cash coming in for what you would call deadwood.
Yeah.
One thing about this Arsenal is that we create chances. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to, if we're looking at a player and you've got a player that is a bit of dead wood, always try and get that as part of the deal some way, somehow. It just gets the wages off, doesn't it? If you can get a few mil off the next deal,
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
try.
Absolutely, because we are rewarding our young wingers, Saka, Martinelli, Saliba. We've got to get them on the books as well. Rule, I trust what you're saying here. I actually think Felix would be good for Arsenal. So as I said, I'm conflicted. I could go either way on that one. Again, if Arteta wants to bring him in, we need something that's going to be the difference for us going down the home stretch here. Benzema, Draxler, and Villa have all been spotted at Liverpool. It was Isak last January as well, and Vlahovic would never pick up the phone as well. Have we truly heard the last of Ronaldo in the top flight?
I
Yeah,
think he's taking the medical, isn't he? Over in the I don't know, I can't remember. Is it Al Nassr? What's the name of the team in Saudi Arabia? He's going. Is it Al Nassr or something?
Al Nasser, I think it was. Yeah,
He's having but it seems like nobody else wants him. Apparently, right? I was reading that he was offered to Eintracht Frankfurt, and the guy at the club, the sporting director, says he believes that Cristiano Ronaldo has been offered to every team in the Champions League and hasn't had a taker.
yeah.
He goes, if we're being offered him, he goes, I reckon that every other club in the Champions League is being offered him. He goes, we said no. Was it not plans?
It's at the time where he's going to come to America, or he's going to go to Arabian League, maybe, which is probably the likely outcome for him. Bierk's going to say, imagine landing Felix and Zaha for a title push. Ronnie going to get 3 million a week, allegedly. Ronaldo, okay. Another name that's going around is Caicedo, but I think it's most likely for Liverpool. Stan,
who
you mentioned Partey earlier.
Yeah,
Caicedo would be, an option if Partey would go down.
who's Salcedo?
Caicedo from Moyes, Caicedo from Brighton.
I can't even think of who that is.
He's a midfield destroyer, pretty good young player. I think he played in the World Cup with Venezuela, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought there was the other one, wasn't it? McAllister. Was he at Brighton as well?
He's at Brighton as well.
I thought that was the one from Brighton. I said Alex McAllister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the one that I knew about. I don't know Salcedo. I can't even think what he looks like. Never even heard of him before.
So I think that's kind of the transfer stuff. Baldrick is the one for me. I'm sort of sold on him. I don't want to get into a third bid. I think a second bid, take it or leave it scenario has to come down to Shakhtar, and it's a lot of money.
Oh, that player! I see how really spelled it now. I know you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay. I know who you mean now. Okay.
Cheers, chat box here, Ecuador.
Yeah, I know who you mean now. Sorry. When you said Salcedo, I was thinking SALD. I was thinking who? No. Yeah.
Both of those players are out for the game on Saturday, so we'll get into previewing Brighton in a second as well. Okay. Nobody said it was going to be easy. The title race is on, Stan. We're not going to lose many games. City are not going to lose many games, so it's going to be nip and tuck throughout the season. I will tell you, we want to have a lead. We want to keep that lead. I think if we go 3 or 4 points behind City, we won't be able to catch them.
No.
So we're talking about,
as I mentioned, man, and this is what I'm clinging on to, and we should all cling on to this. The season Leicester won the title. We beat them twice. Remember that Danny Welbeck goal?
Yeah.
We thought we'd won the league.
Yeah.
So anything can happen, and we're not playing catch up. It's up to everybody else to overtake us. Look at the point spread we've got between Tottenham. I think we've got a game in hand still, haven't we? Or is that game in hand gone now?
I think we have a game in hand on them.
At the end of the last game, we were 10 points ahead of them with a game in hand. Hello. And when I look at point spreads, I always look at how many games that is, right? Say 10 points, that's winning 3 football matches.
Yeah.
And a draw.
Yeah.
That's how far away they are from us. Winning 3 football matches and getting a draw. And they can only play the same amount of games that we can.
But they're not the benchmark, right? I'm not looking at Tottenham. I'm looking at City. I'm looking at Newcastle. You know, I don't want to be looking at Tottenham. Both Brighton midfielders were inquired, but I doubt Arsenal will make a move for either. You talked about Partey, Stan, rightly so. He's the jewel in the crown for us. Last 2 seasons, he only played 24 league games for us. So we're playing with fire a little bit. With Partey, he has to prove that he can go a full season without much injury, let's say. He's
Well, it's
going
funny.
to miss a game or two, right? But
Well, he never had any of these problems when he was at Atletico Madrid, did he? He hardly missed any games.
no.
So, they need to have a look at why that's happening, get to the bottom of it.
Well, I heard a really good podcast about that where they said basically Atletico managed his minutes, right? There'd be a goal up or 2 goals up. After 65 minutes, they'd take him off. So he'd play all of the games, but he wouldn't play 90, 95 minutes every time. You know what I mean?
Which is maybe why we need to buy a player where we can handle him in the same manner.
Mm-hmm.
We get ahead, we're 2-1 up, 2-0 up, whatever. 65 minutes, we can take him off and bring someone else in to hold on, to help us hold on.
Yeah, we're approaching, out of the 15 games we played, we're approaching, Partey has played 11 of those. So he's missed 4 games, and we've done quite well. The game we lost at Old Trafford, he wasn't there. But 11 out of 15 games. So hopefully that continues for the next, we can get another 20 games out of him. He can hit 30, 31 games in the season. And I think that's manageable for us. Brady said our game in hand is against Everton, postponed due to the Queen's death, and also City as well. We deferred the City game because we had to play the PSV, get the Europa League done. So we're going to play City in February, and there's going to be tough games coming up as well. Some tells me we draw blood against City. Anticipation for that clash is mouth-watering. Hopefully we're still first or second. We're going to get into that a little bit, BX. We're going to look at the games for Arsenal coming up and the games for City. Partey wasn't a starter. Yeah, and there was Atletico didn't rely on Partey as much as we rely on him.
Really? I didn't know that.
Players come to Arsenal and become world beaters. Definitely, we have improved the squad. So we're going to play Brighton next, and then we're going to play Newcastle, okay? It's very important just to stay.
Is Brighton away?
Brighton is away from home.
Okay.
Very important to keep our focus, I think, Stan, on the next game and not look ahead, right? And the players are going to look at the next game.
And Brighton can play. There's not really been a massive drop off since Potter left, has there? If anything, you could say that they've probably had a better run of form than Chelsea have.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? When you hear the name Brighton and Hove Albion, go back some years and that, you just think of a small, tiny club. You're just going to push them out of the way and continue on to the next game. It's not like that anymore.
No.
It's not like that anymore. They're in the Premier League because they deserve to be there.
7th place Brighton against Arsenal.
They deserve to be there, and they're an epitome where they play football as a team. They don't have a couple of stars to carry them through. A couple of stars that can turn it on and get them through. They have to rely on each other and play as a unit. And even though they've you could say that they've sold a couple of their best players, haven't they? They sold Cancelo recently.
Cucurella.
And Cucurella, yeah. Sorry, Cucurella, that's who I meant. And I think they sold somebody else. But again, you don't see the drop off because of that. And they've got a player in their team that I really like, and I think you like him as well, and that's Lisandro Trossard.
Yeah.
I think Trossard would be really handy in our Arsenal team because of the variety of the positions that he can play in, and he seems to be able to be productive and make a contribution in any of those positions. And he knows the league.
Yeah, that's the kind of player that. So I posed the question: winger, forward, or striker? I don't think we should think of them as wingers or strikers. I think we should think of them
You
as
see, another thing about
forwards. You know what I
see
mean?
another thing about Mudryk is
Bissouma.
he's predominantly a left winger, a left-sided player, right? Mudryk,
Yep.
and we've got Martinelli playing there, and yeah, it can mean that maybe he's freed up to help in the middle at points, but. Is Mikel Arteta looking at Mudryk and thinking, well, I know he's predominantly a left-sided player, but I'm going to turn him into something else? And I think to myself, if that's the case, is this now the time to be experimenting when we're so close to winning the title? Is this final run in now?
We're in a good position, but we're not close yet. You know what I mean?
I don't think so. But do you know what I'm getting at? Is now the time to be like? You know what I mean? I'm looking for sure things now.
I think if Mudryk comes in, I think he's going to.
As you can see, I'm not really sold on him, and the reason I'm not sold on him is because I just don't know enough about him. I've not seen enough about him, and I don't want to get caught up in a hype like I did with Pepe. I think, yay, Nicolas Pepe! Who the fuck is Nicolas Pepe? Yay!
I think if he comes in, Stan, the situation will be the FA Cup. I think Mudryk will get games in the FA Cup.
Left to get what for 80 million, 800 million? Come on,
Are you going to turf him out for Martinelli?
Well, you're paying the big money. You know what I'm saying? What'd you do with someone? You're paying the big money.
You don't just throw him in at the deep end either. You know, we rarely disagree on things, Stan, but I think here we disagree on the profile of the player and how you're going to use him. Two steps in a January transfer window that we disagree on. And,
if he's going to come in, he's got to come in and he's got to be able to be, he's got to be coming off the bench in the first game he comes.
There you go, coming off the bench, but not starting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But Brighton have a winning record against Arsenal in the EPL, oddly. The only important game is the next. Bissouma as well. So this is the model of Brighton. Brighton is a good model of a club. They're doing well in the league. They're bringing players through. They're buying them at a reasonable price. They're finding these talents, and they're selling them to the big clubs, Stan, for mucho dinero.
Yeah.
Getting 6 points in the next two games will be very good for momentum going to Tottenham and United. Brighton has been our bogey team for the last 4 years. The Seagulls have beaten us more than we have beaten them in this period recently. Funny thing, Stan, is the next four league games are against teams that have beaten us in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Brighton, Newcastle, Tottenham, and Man United most recently. So
and I didn't. How did we get on with Everton last season? No, we beat them, didn't we?
Everton last season we lost there
towards the end of the season, right?
It was around about December when Aubameyang was close to being dropped and stripped of the captaincy. That was away from home. At home, we beat them in the last day of the season when all the pressure was off. We beat them 5 or 6-1 last game of the season. So what were your thoughts on Everton? Because they're going to play Man City at the Etihad on Saturday.
I mean, why should you don't really give them any chance.
You don't give them a chance, right?
No, because they've got at the end of the day, Erling Haaland is the difference maker at the moment.
Yeah,
they've got that at the moment, and he's flying high. Yeah. He's flying high, and he's a difference maker.
I don't know if you saw the game, but I saw the highlights of the Leeds game, City against Leeds.
I was looking for match of the day too, but I couldn't find it, so I haven't seen it. I wanted to watch it.
So I didn't see the highlights. They're crucifying Jack Grealish for missing chances.
Yeah, I heard about that.
They were not tap-ins. They technically you had to get a good contact on the ball to score. They were open goals, but you had to get a good contact and be technically good. And he was a little bit rusty. He missed chance. He's got a couple wide and over. But he was being picked on a lot by on social media about it. But Rodri scored just before halftime on a rebound, a little bit like the goal he scored against us on New Year's Day last year. Melia almost got to the ball, almost saved it. So City go in 1-0 at the halftime, and then second half they were able to set up Haaland with a couple of goals. Basically, the team's working for Haaland to get tap ins.
Well, why wouldn't you? Because he's so accurate with it.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a difference maker, right?
yeah, yeah. He is. Brings out the red carpet. Says BX. The title is within our grasp. What we do now decides where we stand in May.
Yeah.
I gotta be cautious though. I gotta feel a bit more cautious than that. You know what I mean? I don't know if the title's within our grasp. If we keep
Of
playing the
course
way
it
we play,
is. I think it is.
okay,
I mean, how many draws have we had this season
one.
so far? You know what I mean?
Okay, am I being too guarded about this, Dan?
Enjoy it.
I'm enjoying it for sure. I'm enjoying it, but
How do you want the players to be thinking at the moment?
I
That they can win it?
I know. No, I want them to take it one game at a time and enjoy each game. So you're encouraging me as well to enjoy every game, just like the players I think are doing. I don't think the players are thinking City are hunting us down. I think they're going to go out. They're going out and enjoying themselves and beating West Ham, and you can see the team are so united. You get that vibe?
I'm just saying, Mr. Tom says too early to say it's in our grasp. I honestly don't think it is because we're at the top of the table at the moment.
Yeah, we're 5
So
points here.
it's ours to lose. You know,
We're not halfway yet. You said that we're not halfway yet.
if we don't make mistakes, you know, it's up to us to trip up and make mistakes and allow somebody to jump in front of us.
Yeah. January is going to be a very, very tough.
If you play all the games out now and every team wins their games, we come out on top, right?
Every team wins the same amount of games.
Yeah, because we're in the head.
Yeah.
We come out on top, right?
Yeah.
So it's up to us then to trip up and
Yeah.
allow somebody to jump in front of us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's within our our destiny is within our own hands.
We
Yeah, because if everybody else now continues, you know, to win their games, us in City, we still come out ahead of them. As simple as that.
I've been looking at this. We have some tough. I'm just taking the top 6 clashes. I went through this for Arsenal, Newcastle, and Man City. We've got some tough games to play against the top 6. We have to go to White Hart Lane. We have to go to Brighton. Brighton are in 7th place, so they're technically the top 6 for me. We have to go to Anfield. We have to go to Manchester City. We have to go to Newcastle. All away games, you know. So these games coming up are going to be so important to beat Brighton, Newcastle next week at home. We're going to have a tough game up at Newcastle, so we need to definitely get 3 points on the next game against Newcastle. We have to beat Tottenham, and then we have to continue our home form against Man United next 4 games.
Very possible, very doable.
Exactly.
You know, I disbelieve at the moment. You know, I believe. You know, I'm not in this camp that we've not played anyone, that we've had an easy ride. I think this team's worked really hard and played some really good football. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I actually believe that the only thing that can trip us up is a lack of depth.
So here's the thing. I'll throw back at you. We've beaten Tottenham and Liverpool at home, right?
Yeah.
So those are good results, but they were home results. We've gotten maximum points from them. We have to now go away from home to Tottenham and go to Anfield. Those are going to be big games in our season. The one especially at White Hart Lane next month in January.
I think we're at a stage now where our players relish the opportunity to go to somewhere like Anfield and win.
Yeah.
I don't think they're afraid. I don't think that they feel that, you know, outside of the Emirates that they're going to get found out, that they're only safe to win. You know, how many away games have you played this season so far?
8.
How many have we lost?
Just the one. We've
Okay.
beaten Chelsea, we've beaten Brentford, we've beaten Palace on the opening day of the season. Bournemouth, lucky to beat Leeds United, we got to say.
But
And we beat Wolves before the break.
but we've done good on the road, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, happy days.
Long may that continue.
Yeah, exactly. We seem very balanced. It doesn't seem unequal. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's some real, real dodgy ones on the road there, but they do good at home. We seem to be,
I think the best win away from home was probably Chelsea, beating them 1-0. That was a tough, gritty win. Mr. Tom said it was not a great game, unsurprisingly, coming from me. That was
Rudy just says we have them. I didn't know this. He says we have the most clean sheets on the road. I mean, it's good stats. We're in a good place.
Yeah, we got 6 clean sheets. Yeah, that is good. That is good, Reddy. Haaland has a real crack shot.
If we never lost that game against Man United, and you know what, I feel that we were unlucky to lose that game. Very much unlucky to lose that game. We'd be invincible right up to this point. We'd be on an invincible run up to this point.
Yeah. On the flip, though, we were very lucky to beat Leeds United. You know what I mean?
Sometimes you need a bit of luck. You're telling me that the seasons that Man United won their leagues and all of that there was no luck involved anywhere along the lines? You need a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
The other argument is that you could say then up until this point is that we've been unlucky. We've had things happen to us that have been unlucky.
Yeah. That Martinelli goal chalked off at Old Trafford. Haaland is hunting us down, Stan. Are we worried? No, I think we should embrace it. Like you said, we should embrace it.
You want to play. I'm sure that you don't want to hide. Like I said about going to Anfield or going to fucking Shite Hart Lane. Again, the players want to test themselves against the best. Do you think Gabriel and Saliba are shitting their pants because of Haaland? I don't think so. They want to use that as a gauge to know how good they are. They want to keep him in his pocket. And I'll say it again. We beat Leicester twice in 2015. So it doesn't mean that if we lose to Man City home and away, that it's done for.
All right, let's bring in some Alonso's here. Let's bring Alonso in. Alonso.
Hello there.
How are you feeling about the title challenge, Alonso? We're just talking about the title challenge.
Yeah, so I'm feeling pretty optimistic about it. I think that
hang on, I can go for I'm glad Alonso's here. I can go for a much needed wee.
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad that and Eddie and Kedia scored, because had he not scored, I was losing hope on whether or not he could score in big games. And the West Ham game is a derby game, so the fact that he scored is pretty good as far as his confidence, and whether or not he can lead the line when Jesus is out is quite comforting knowing he can score. But that being said, we got to get some signings. Apparently, Modric's gonna sign, I guess. I haven't heard an update, but from what I heard, he was very close on a deal. But yeah, I mean, I think the defense, the back four has been playing pretty well, and I think Arteta's done a good job as far as rotation, like bringing in Zinchenko and Tierney, giving them minutes, and when one's hurt or come from injury, he's able to rotate them in. So as far as that goes, he's done a pretty good job of rotation and substituting. So yeah, I'm pretty confident we could be in this for long haul.
Yeah, cool. If you're driving there, I'll just go through a few comments. I need a 10 points league win at the end, 10 points league gap at the end of January. Rudy said, Haaland said on the post-match interview, he wants to hunt us down. Glad he let us know that on live TV. Yeah, bring it, Haaland. But, we're not going to play City every week. So the only time you can affect us is when you actually play us. As long as we can stay consistent, we can keep the gap to you. To me, in our grasp is essentially saying you have a hand on the trophy, but you've not played your biggest contender. I tend to agree with you, Mr. Tom. There's a long way to go with this. 23 more games, league games to go. You're very much in pole position, but a long way to go. And Rudy's right. We had the most clean sheets on the road. I just checked that. 6 out of 8 games we have only conceded twice on the road, and that was up at Old Trafford when we should not have lost that game, really, and at Southampton. Giving it Aubameyang was great. Haven't seen him since when we celebrated against Aubameyang at that Chelsea game. The fans are showing up ready to rock. We have an army behind us. Have you seen the fans getting together, Alonso? The Ashburton army, I think, bringing the atmosphere into the stadium and just generating a great atmosphere on match days.
Yeah, and it kind of tells you that how far the team has gotten. I think ever since 2000, well, the end of the year before we finished 5th.
Yeah,
you saw that the fans coming back, and though we weren't getting results, they were still, happy and all that. I think you saw a glimpse of it last year whenever we were in the midst of the top 4 race. Unfortunately, we didn't get there, but I think they're seeing it now more this year because we're no longer Arteta out, Arteta in. I think, whenever we're winning and we follow his projects and trust the process, as our friend Joel Embiid likes to say, that he kind of got he kind of has, I guess, in a way, united the fan base. I think a lot of people before Arteta got hired were pro Wenger, and he's kind of helped out in the sense that he's going to be around for a long haul. And that being said, Arsenal's winning again, so I think we see more fans singing on happy days, and I think it all comes down to Arteta, so he's happy, we're all happy. So
yeah, definitely. That Rudy said the Ashburton army is great. They have added to the atmosphere, which has turned the Emirates into a different place now, no longer a library as it used to be. All of this is precipitated by Mikel Arteta changing the culture within the dressing room, changing the players who were there picking up big fat paychecks, and brought in some players who actually care to play for the badge and care to win games and care to bring atmosphere into the stadium. Alonso's got Tony in the boot of his car, or maybe
best place for him.
Spursy in the boot. Maybe you got Why Not Spursy in there, Alonso. But I was looking, I was looking forward to the dueling WGAF and IGAF Premier League predictions. Maybe.
Hey guys, I'm gonna be back on. I'm gonna drive home now, so I'll be back here shortly.
Okay.
All right, see you guys soon. Bye.
See you in a few. In 2016, you were miles behind Leicester. Realistically, you only finished second because Spurs collapsed once they couldn't catch Leicester. Well, we were on top at Christmas, so yes, we did have a Giroud period where he didn't score in a number of games.
Barren period.
Yeah, the barren period. Okay, so we play Brighton. We'll get into Brighton a little bit, but Man City play Everton. Man City will play just before us, so we expect Man City to beat Everton, and the gap will be 2 points when we go to play Brighton versus Arsenal.
But this is a great thing about football. We all know how things look on paper. Oh yeah, this team should beat that team. That team should beat this team. Yeah. Look at some of the losses that Man City have had this season. They've had a couple of losses, didn't they? A couple of drop points where they shouldn't have. Look at Liverpool.
They lost to Liverpool away from home. They lost to Brentford.
And speaking of Liverpool, look at where they are at the moment.
Yeah, but they've won 4 games. They've won 4 games on the trot now. So Liverpool are moving a little bit now,
Too little, too late, though, isn't it? To make a dent.
Yeah.
To make a dent. You never know. Players have off days. Things don't work. Referees can make calls. You never know. It's
I was
it could be a 1-1 draw.
I was watching, definitely, and I was very tempted by Everton in the upset pick, but I didn't pick Everton in the end. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I was watching a Liverpool podcast. They were talking about the gap to Arsenal.
Was that Dave?
No, LFC Day Trippers. I do like to watch them. They're pretty good. Not Dave. But they were saying the pressure will get to Arsenal. See, this is the viewpoint that I was telling you, Stan. Rival fans from outside, rival fans looking from outside, they don't exactly know what we're doing here at Arsenal.
When they say things like that, right? When they say when they look in and they say, "Oh, Arsenal are going to start feeling the pressure," that's all they've got to cling on to.
Yeah,
that's all they've got, because it's not going to be the football that lets us down, because that's speaking for itself. They can see players in our team that they'd love to have in their team. So they're hoping that that we're not going to be able to. We're going to somehow. It's going to be too much for us at the top, because we've got such a young team. They're all going to just collapse.
That's what they're clinging on to.
But that's why we've got players like Jesus, Xhaka, Zinchenko, players like that, El Neni. These are the more experienced players that we have in there that will hold things together. And I'd even go so far as to say our captain.
Yeah, good shout.
He's young, but he's well travelled. He's been in a few dressing rooms, isn't he? For such a young player, and he's been in some big ones as well.
And he wants to achieve something. Arsenal and Arteta have pretty much rescued his career. Maybe he didn't know what was going to happen at Real Madrid. He was swept along with the circus that is there in Madrid. Well, you make a great shout there. Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, they've got that experience. If they're not going to be able to do it on the field because one is injured or both is injured at times, they're going to be there in the dressing room, and they're going to be egging on the players to reach those levels in training and to do all of the right things and to be a calming influence. Mohamed El Neni as well. People underestimate him so much. He's going to come in and do a job for us, maybe in some cup competitions where needed, but he's going to be in the background as well on the training ground, keeping the levels and the standards that Arteta needs.
When Jesus is fit enough to come back and start a game for Arsenal, he wants to start a game for Arsenal with us still at the top of the table.
Yeah.
That's what he wants.
Definitely.
You don't think because you think because he's won medals at City that he doesn't really care about medals anymore. He'd love to win a medal at another club. It just shows the continuity for him as an individual.
And I think it may mean more to him, Stan, because he's now the first choice striker. He's the number one guy. He wasn't behind. He's not behind Aguero. He's not behind whoever else was there over the seasons. He's not going to be behind the Haaland. He wants to be the number one guy who can deliver the title to us. And when he comes back, he wants to score goals.
Exactly. I mean, Arsenal have basically given this guy a platform. He's now stepped out of the shadows. He's in the spotlight.
Strikers are measured on goals, unfortunately, and that's. But he means more to us than just goals because of the way he was playing. Now, Eddie has been able to do some of that build-up play, but essentially he's there to score a goal here and there. He's not going to score every game. Maybe he won't score at Brighton, but he's going to be part of the effort that he's going to help Martinelli or Saka to score a goal. I was looking back at the podcast last year that we did, Brighton, Arsenal, and that was a 0-0 draw. It was the seventh game of the campaign, and it was one of the draws, and it was a really horrible day. It was a lot of rain down there. And Brighton were the better team on the day, Stan.
But it's probably fair to say though that we're both Arsenal and Brighton are very different beasts and animals that they were in that last fixture.
Yeah,
we've improved the quality of players that we have.
Mhm.
You know, players are better now. Players like William Saliba,
Yeah.
as an example. Whereas there's an argument to say that they are weaker. You know,
Yeah, especially with Moyes, Caicedo not going to play, McAllister not
the
going to play.
manager,
Their midfield is
it's a
going
different
to be very
philosophy.
weak.
It's a different philosophy going through Brighton now. It's a different
I
animal
do.
altogether.
We do
The
have to
manager's
give
not doing
this.
you know, he's got his own ideas. You know, the
Yeah,
manager will have his own ideas now of what they're doing. So, you know,
credit to him though. He has picked up pretty much where Potter left off. There was a little bit of a drop off where they lost to Tottenham. They drew with Nottingham Forest. They lost to Brentford. They drew with Liverpool, that 3-3 game. They beat Chelsea. They lost to City. They lost to Aston Villa. They beat Wolves and they beat Southampton more recently. But you can see that first D in that first sequence. We had lost those 3 games last season. We lost the first 3 games, won the next 3, but then we drew that game at Brighton. But De Zerbi has done a really good job for them. Obviously, we got a lot more W's this season, and we're 5 points clear of Man City. Just have 1 loss and 1 draw. So really, nothing to fear, right? I don't think we should fear Brighton. I think we should embrace what's happening in Arsenal.
yeah.
You know?
I don't fear playing any team at the moment. I think that we were able to give a team a good run for their money. And even if you come out with a loss or a draw, as long as I see that the team, you know, didn't give up the ghost, then it's how it is. You can't expect your team to have an invincible season every season. It doesn't work like that. There will be losses. There will be L's, you know, and there will be the odd D in there as well.
Exactly. Let me put this up. We'll get into the previews next, and then we'll get out of here. Gary must be having such a good time that he can't get to the podcast link. Is there any other player you wanted to call out from Monday? I know that's a tricky question. Partey, we really rely on Partey a lot for what we do in midfield. And I think midfield is going to be the base on which we can win the game against Brighton on Saturday.
What's the situation of Tomiyasu? Was he on the bench for the last game?
I'm not sure. I thought he was. I think he was injured.
Okay.
So, I hate to leave you for a second, Stan. Can you talk for a second, and I'll be right back? Sure. I will be literally 30 seconds, then we'll get into the Premier League previews. So just let me. You can even talk about City, Everton, and even next week Arsenal, Newcastle. But City have to go to Chelsea next week as well.
I wanted to ask you guys in the chat box when we were talking about the Mykhailo Mudryk thing, and I was showing my concerns, being worried because I don't know really that much about the player, like about Nicolas Pepe. How do you guys feel about the Mykhailo Mudryk thing? Do you think that this has to be the guy that we have to get over anybody else? And how much do you think that we should be paying for this guy? Because 100 million euros is a hell of a lot of money for someone that's, for me, has really only played in the Ukrainian league. And as I mentioned earlier, he's had flashes in the Champions League, but it does seem like a lot of money. And I'm not sure whether we're in that place where we should be even considering spending that amount on one player. And a player of, when I say that stature, I'm not talking in a big way, because he hasn't really set the world alight as yet. It sounds like a good prospect, though. Sounds like a good prospect. So I just wondered what you guys feel, whether we should be going all out for this guy or whether there are other options that you think that we should be considering that could be more value for money. So let us know in the chat.
All right, cool. Thanks, Stan, for that filler. You could have had your shirt unplugged. That thing.
The Briscoe brothers. They've not paid for this week, so fuck them.
All right. Let's get through a few comments. Having a good chat here as well. Ashburton Army is great. They've added to the atmosphere, which has turned the Emirates into a different place now. no longer a
Oh,
library.
did you see that footage of walking down the road on the way to the pitch? It was like something from Spain or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Some people are like intimidated by that, but it's all good. It's all love, and they just want to have a good environment and a good atmosphere for the opposition. You know what I mean? We need to intimidate the opposition so they're a goal down before we even start the game.
for far too long, people said that Arsenal have had a soft underbelly.
Mhm.
You know, you read pundits that used to play against the same things like, yeah, we always knew that if we could get at them in the first few minutes, then we'd have a good chance of keeping them quiet.
Yeah.
Sort of hinting that we were, very soft underbelly and that we're a Goldilocks team. That the porridge has to be, it can't be too hot, it can't be too cold. The porridge must be just right. Well, them days have gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Those days have gone, and it was fun. Did you see? Did you see the tweet that I retweeted? It was some Tottenham guy. I don't know how it came on my timeline. I think it was because somebody from our fan base retweeted it. And it was this Tottenham guy basically saying that, and he was being really genuine, talking into the camera about the great conspiracy that apparently the refs are in our favour and we're getting all of these favors. I mean, have you ever heard anything so laughable in your whole life? Arsenal getting favours, Arsenal being in the pocket of the. I mean, come on. They've hated us for fucking years, man. They've never liked us.
I think I feel like I'm not saying that they're in our pocket. I think we've got some good calls against us that haven't, things that haven't gone against us. But notwithstanding, they did VAR has ruled against us in some things. But that was ridiculous. I didn't even watch it. It was just that too far ahead. And these rivals get themselves worked up because you know what, we're doing well, and
it's called living rent free, mate.
They can see we're doing well, and the team is playing beyond even the fans' expectations. On Ryan's stream, people were sharpening their tools for Eddie's head at halftime. It's almost comedic at this point. I was worried for the second half, but I'm always going to wait till the 90 minutes is up before I analyze a player's the way he played. I'm thankful that Eddie scored. It put a lot of things to bed, and it's going to give him some grace for Saturday and even next week. Now he's got to keep providing a goal involvement every other game at least. BX going to say the Arsenal City rivalry was just born. Yeah, when Haaland's talking about hunting us down. Go ahead, Stan.
So Mr. Tom said that we did have a soft underbelly. We lost the game with Watford bullying. And I agree with you. We did have that reputation, and I hated it. Yeah. I hated being known of being, like the Chihuahuas of the fucking Premier League. But I think that reputation is now beginning to fade away.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Tom was pleased Leeds started to go with City. A shame we were 3-0 down at the time. Hopefully you can give Newcastle a good game on the weekend as well. Tom the Road is here. Tommy was not on the bench. So
no. Okay.
There's a feeling that Saliba was playing because Tomiyasu couldn't play. That's the feeling that Ben White would have played and Tomiyasu would have played and Saliba would have been rested. He was a little bit rusty. It feels a lot of money for a player that only plays about 6 Champions League games a year at most.
He says no one else is linked with Mudryk. Strange. We'll probably all wake up tomorrow morning and find out that he signed for Chelsea in the middle of the night.
I think it's close.
They are splashing the cash, man, like a drunk guy.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced by Chelsea. You seem to be a little bit sweet about what they're doing. I'm not convinced.
Well,
that's an 8th place team.
They look like they've got money to burn to buy a title. That's what it looks like to me. They just seem to be like they will hemorrhage cash to get the glory.
I'm not convinced by Chelsea. I think they've sunk from a top 4 prospect to now a Europa League prospect. They'll find it hard to get into the Champions League this year.
Can you imagine that?
Huh?
Could you imagine that? Liverpool and Chelsea don't make the Champions League.
It's
Man United don't either.
Well,
imagine it's like Man City, us, Newcastle, and
one of the others.
Yeah.
Right? Take your pick from Tottenham, Man United, or Liverpool.
Not Tottenham.
Who's your favorite there?
Anyone but Tottenham.
So you're saying there's a chance for United
Listen,
for Liverpool?
I hate Tottenham so much. I'd rather Max Verstappen, who I also hate, qualify for that 4th spot, if possible.
Mudryk looks a serious attacker, but no more than 60 million altogether if we go that route. BX Gunner, I just want to go a second bid, all in, take it or leave it. I don't want to mess around with a third bid because it's going to look silly. In terms of
I don't
top
care
line,
how much we spend, as long as he comes in and does the business. You won't hear any complaints from me. The money will be irrelevant if he comes in and does the business. You know what I mean? But you look at a player like Jadon Sancho, right? Tearing it up over there in Germany. Everyone sniffing around. A very high value transfer, and he's underwhelmed. Can't get back into the England team. Underwhelmed. Yes, you can say maybe it's the environment, but you see things like that, and to me, it makes me. We're in a place where we can't afford them kind of mistakes. We can't afford to just buy another guy to replace him.
Yeah.
Did you know what I'm getting at? Like, if we go all out for Mudryk, we're fucking committed and stuck with him come hell or high water.
Yeah.
So, I'm like you. I'm so impressed with the way that we are at the moment. I'm like, you know what? I've got my concerns, but I'm putting my faith that the manager and his supporting staff have done all of that. They need their due diligence.
Yeah.
Maybe no one else is at the table because they know, well, the guy's just lifting his skirt for Arsenal.
Exactly. Listen, we have got Brighton away from home. We've got Newcastle. We've got Tottenham. We've got United. That's tough 4 games. City have Everton at home. They go away to Chelsea, which will be a tough game for City. Then they play FA Cup and EFL Cup, but then they play away to Manchester United. That's a tough game. And they play at home to Tottenham. So if we've got 4 tough games, City also have 4 tough games in the month of January. So
they're all tough, aren't they? They're all tough.
Same, Stan. Yeah.
They're all tough, man. I mean, you look at a team like Man United, and for me, they're a real jack-in-the-box team. They're a team that can go and play a Bournemouth and get beat 3-1, but then they can also go and play their next game, and convincingly beat their opponents.
Yeah. BX Gunner said I'd go for Zaha and Felix. Mudryk is a must buy. Is not a must buy. Think we have already gone over the threshold in terms of finances. As I said earlier, 70 million, take it or leave it. I think 70 is kind of where the bar that I set as well.
So you do 50 million in cash with 20 million in add-ons?
I don't want to go over that Pepe mark. So the media is going to start talking about Mudryk as the Arsenal.
He's a young kid, right, as well. He's becoming to a new club, a big club like Arsenal. He'll have a big enough spotlight on him as it is because he's coming to the team that's at the top of the table. Do we really want to weigh this kid down with being also burdened as fucking record transfer, so that everything that he does is going to be viewed with Arsenal's record transfer scored a hat-trick. Arsenal's record transfer, Mr. Sitter. Do you know what I mean?
We don't want that.
But at the end of the day, Shakhtar Donetsk, they don't give a fuck about that. They just care about how much is going into their wallet.
Yeah, the money. What amount of money do you want to go to, Alonso, for Mudryk?
66 million pounds. Yeah, just add-ons because, like Stan said, what if Arsenal get Champions League, or what if he gets 10 goals, 10 assists his first season, or maybe half season. But yeah, I mean, there's gonna be some add-ons as well because he's not coming to Arsenal just to play. There's got to be some kind of incentive there to where he could succeed. And what's gonna happen? Shakhtar Donetsk is not Premier League type of football. So
you're setting it around 60, Alonso.
Right.
Yeah. Thunder Road said, I'm like you, Stan. I know nothing about him, so the higher the price, the more cautious I get. And also, who are we competing with to drive his price up?
Yeah.
I feel like we are the only ones at the table. The only ones I think that could steal it is Newcastle.
Mhm.
I'd go for Savage and Zaha to win a title. BX Scudder. This is it. We're close. The games are going to come quick and thick and fast now as well. Every 3 days there's going to be seem to be a game because when the World Cup has compressed the calendar to now, we played 15. Well, we got to take care of the other 23 in 5 months, right? And it's going to come quick and fast. Europa League and FA Cup's going to be in there. No one else is linked.
It's literally sandwiched in, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying you still have it, just that it wasn't unfair to say your team was soft for a long time post Vieira. Listen, we know we had players in our team 3 years ago. If we went to Sheffield or we went
Mesut
to
Ozil.
Manchester or Liverpool, huh?
Mesut Ozil. I mean, he was the biggest.
Newcastle.
Mesut Ozil was the biggest, and he was the biggest Goldilocks player that I remember. Everything had to be just right in order to get a good performance, out of him. And we had a number of players like that, and a number of players that were inconsistent. A number of players that would literally had come for a retirement holiday home package with fluffy slippers and dressing gowns. The whole mentality was wrong. Now we've got hunger.
Now, and we've changed from Colonel Mustard and David Luiz to William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes.
Exactly.
It's been a big difference.
Magalhaes.
Chelsea are doing the Man United, just throwing money around with no solid plan. Potter needs to get the owners.
See, I don't know that because, as I mentioned, hold on, they spent about 80 million on some good talent from around Europe under 21.
I'm not convinced, but if you're telling me this, I'm going to be watching Chelsea now. You and I are going to be watching Chelsea, and yeah, we're going to be watching Eddie and Ketty, and we want him to continue what he did for us on Monday as well in general play. I'm not saying he's going to score every game, but he's got it. Man United did Sancho dirty, spent a year or two selling him a bill of goods, then brought in Ronaldo. Okay, Sancho has priced himself out of any move. Okay, so we are going to go to the Premier League predictions now. And Alonso, you won't be able to fight with Tony.
Crap.
That's a shame. That's what people come for.
They come for you, Stan.
No. They come for Tony. They come for you and Tony scrapping, mate.
That was me. That was me, Alonso.
It's scary.
We're celebrating 4 years, Alonso. So thank you for being a big part of it as well. Stan also.
Well,
everyone else.
I think what's cool about this podcast, right, is that we all came from different podcasts, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Stan came from ABW, correct, Stan?
Say again.
You came from ABW, correct?
Yeah, and a couple of others, a few others.
And
was it same old Arsenal?
Okay.
Yep.
And I was on a little cameo with Andrew's podcast.
From Dull Square.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for having me, Ray, and Stan.
Hey, listen, it's fun. We differ. We've differed more on things as Arsenal haven't gotten their act together, but as the games have come and we're winning games, we don't argue as much. We talk about the finer points of what we need.
But Ray, it was kind of funny because I always wanted to be on Red Can Wonderland as a guest host, but now I'm on this podcast and it's pretty cool, man. Right? I mean, Stan.
Danny could be watching. Danny could be watching. You might get an invite. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I haven't made that big yet. So.
All right, Alonso finally fed up of Tony last Thursday. Has locked Tony up in the garage. Okay, let's start off. Dan, tomorrow there's games tomorrow. Stan, did you know
there is,
that?
isn't there? Yeah, there is, isn't there? So 2 games
First
tomorrow. One or two?
2 games tomorrow. First one is West Ham at home to Brentford. 16th versus 10th.
Well,
And,
I think West Ham still weak. West Ham still weak. They've got a couple of key players out, right? That didn't play against us, right? Scamacca.
Yeah, Scamacca maybe.
Who's the other one? Another player.
Well,
Another player.
Antonio did play against us. I think
Okay.
it was a game day
But
decision.
Brentford, they're looking quite plucky. You know,
Yeah.
even though they may be losing games, they still look really close in the games that they've lost. If that makes any sense, do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
I could say that this would be a Brentford win.
Yeah, West Ham 16. They just threw in the towel against us, didn't they? We got on top of them. We got those 2 quick goals within 5 minutes. They didn't seem to have anything after that. And
But we just were able. We were just able to get every time we did lose the ball, we just got it back again so quickly.
Yeah.
And they just didn't seem to have any kind of firepower. Really.
I can see Brentford doing that. I can see Brentford getting the ball.
Have firing power, yeah. And I have to say something, you know, I'm kind of warming to your man over there, Ivan Toney.
See?
Yeah, and you know what it is?
You
know what it is? It's ever since he got rid of that man bun. Now I'm fucking now I'm believing into this guy. So
the only problem is he's got so much of this betting scandal thing going on.
Yeah, what the odds?
He's not going to be an attractive proposition for any team that wants him. Brentford wins against the Hammers, Arsenal misfit. Yeah, I think Brentford can get a draw at least here, if not win the game. Alonso?
Yeah.
West Ham at home to Brentford.
Yeah, that's funny.
They take anyone, man.
I mean, fair play, man. I mean, Stan's a popular guy.
Absolutely, Stan's in demand. He's got to have blue M&Ms.
Basically, you're the only people that will talk to me, so that's why I'm here. No one talks to me in Vancouver.
I think Moyes has lost that team. No fight. West Ham, they're seriously they're close to the relegation zone here.
How long can they hold on to Declan Rice for? Do you know what I mean? And what would be the stupid amount, like the stupid amount that he's eventually going to go for, right? You got the Premier League tax, the English tax, Jesus.
Hey Stan, what's the price of rice these days?
What's the price of rice exactly? Ask Uncle Ben. He'll tell you. Uncle Ben will let you know.
Party without rice.
Right. So I mean, yeah, like Stan was saying that I think Ivan Toney is just on right now. I think that he's been a guy that I think ever since Brentford being in the Premier League that he's always been a guy that's always been their talisman. So I mean, on the barriers stages, he's performed very well, and I wish all that betting scandal wouldn't have happened had he not been betting. I think Arsenal would probably go for him, but he's a Brentford guy, and I think that West Ham, like you said, Ray, they didn't show a lot of fight in the second half. Whereas the first half, and then they scored that first goal, and they had some kind of emotion to their game. But, I think unfortunately, like someone had said, that David Moyes they lost that team. He lost the team, I guess. Just the year prior to last year, they're doing pretty well for themselves, but unfortunately can't crush them down, I guess, this year. But I think Brentford will win that game easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And look, it's easy to look at Arsenal and think, well, they wilted against Arsenal, but Arsenal's the best team in the league right now. Mm-hmm. And we got to a level in that second half where I don't think many teams could have lived with us in that 15-minute period where we just blew that team away. And if Arsenal can continue to reach levels in games like that, there's not many teams that are going to be able to deal with us. And I think if we go goal up against Brighton as well, that's it. Teams are going to start packing their bags and just throw in the towel. And I think that's what happened at West Ham. It's a bad sign, though, that they threw the towel in with about 15 minutes to go. I think Brentford will beat West Ham. The other one, Stan, is Liverpool at home to Leicester. I think I said before, Liverpool on a run of 4 games now. They've won 4 in a row. Well, 3 in a row.
What was Leicester's last result? Remind me.
Go on.
They lost to Newcastle 3-1 in
gosh.
the last game.
Struggling, isn't they?
It's Newcastle, but they lost. Yeah.
Sorry, struggling. Leicester, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And Newcastle seem to be flying. I mean, nothing would make me personally happier than the table at the end of the season reading Arsenal first place, Newcastle second place. That would just be a dream come true for me. Obviously, you know, with the Newcastle ties and everything.
Yes.
And so I'm really looking forward to the game against Arsenal Newcastle as well. But Leicester, yeah, I don't see them getting anything out of that one. I think that goal by Almiron, what a good goal that was.
Yeah.
You know, they got some good players in there. They're playing some good football, and I was surprised when they chased Eddie Howe. I didn't think Eddie Howe, you know, would really be able to do much away from Bournemouth. You know, as Little Lord Fauntleroy, as I call him, reminds me of Little Lord Fauntleroy. But I'm pleased that they're doing. I'm pleased.
The names you give people just stick. I know. I knew you were going to say that.
That's what he reminds me of, right? You know, I say that all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they're doing well, but I don't see Leicester getting 3 points out of that one.
Okay. Stan, do you remember the actor Freddie Prinze Jr.?
I do.
He has a podcast called WWF Wrestling with Freddie. It's not terrible.
I'll have to look for that. I didn't know that you did one. And just on that same subject, have a look at the JBL and Gerald Briscoe from the Briscoe Brothers body part shop. They also have a podcast that's quite good. And Gerald Briscoe's got like these big grey mutton chops. Anyway, I digress.
Brendan Rodgers, Alonso. Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I think
Still in a job there.
it's a shame because, you know, I don't quite know what happened there, but it disconnects. But Leicester were a good team once upon a time, and they were
Selling team, though, isn't they? They're a selling
Once upon a
team.
time in a galaxy far, far away.
But they're a selling
Brendan
team, isn't
Rodgers.
it? That's their thing. They're a selling team.
They're selling
They
team.
build up a star, they build people up, and they sell them.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's Jimmy Vardy that wants to stay there forever.
Yeah. You remember, we got blanked by Jamie Vardy, man. You know what I mean? Never gonna live that one down, man.
I don't know how
We got blanked by Albert Steptoe. I mean, fucking hell.
maybe Mr. Tom, maybe you could tell us what his salary is a year. But Jamie Vardy got paid very well to turn Arsenal down and stay at Leicester City.
I read today that Brendan Rodgers is going to offer a new contract to Tielemans. I don't know if it's bullshit or whether he's going to offer it, knowing he's going to turn it down, so he can say, "Look, guys, I tried." But
Yeah.
I read that today.
I think the players there know that it's a sinking ship. There's good players there. Tielemans, Madison, maybe Harvey Barnes is a good player, right?
Is that one
Harvey
tomorrow?
Barnes, Daka. There's a David Luiz lookalike, number 3. I don't know what his name is.
But didn't he just sign with them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can still take him. We can take him. If we want them, Alonso, we can go in there with the cash and take him. You know what I mean? So at Anfield, Liverpool easily beat Leicester. I think it might be more than 2-1. Really, I'm seeing 3-0 for Liverpool, and we're going to be looking at Liverpool. I think they're going to put a little bit of a charge on. They're not going to win every game, but they can beat Leicester City. Alonso, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Liverpool had a good game against Villa. I think Villa was more better at competition for Liverpool than what Leicester are. I think Villa should have gotten a couple more in, at least one more in, the way they were playing. But Leicester, like you guys have said, they're a sinking ship with no fight, I guess. And Jimmy Vardy's on those last legs.
We'll know tomorrow,
Yeah, and so I think Liverpool are just too much of a good team. I think they're probably getting their best footing right now because they've been playing so well lately, and it takes time for Nuno Tavares, this guy's name, Darwin Núñez to maybe fit into the team. That's why it's taking so long for them to turn cylinders. But
as we said earlier, Darwin's been scoring goals. He's just been the scapegoat for how they're doing. It'll be interesting to see how Cody Gakpo.
Has he scored more? He scored more goals than Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah,
Núñez.
I think so.
Yes.
But do you see the way that
Right.
it's a different sort
Same,
of the way that
but-
it's working different, though, right? You see what I mean? It's like
It's
sometimes
nine goals and 3 assists, but its goal involvements is 12. Gabriel Jesus is right about 12 as well, 5 and 5 or 5 and
Right.
6, something like that. If you value the assists as much as the goals, you know what I mean? Stan, here's my upset pick: Wolverhampton Wanderers to beat Man United. I'm
Really?
picking that one. Yeah, Wolves to beat Man United Saturday morning. Wolves beat Everton in the last seconds in the last game. They have that new manager coming in, Lukaku or whatever his name, Lukaku.
When I looked at our upset picks, I did consider that one as well. But like as I said with what I said earlier about Man United, they really are a jack in the box.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They could go out and literally destroy Wolves, but on the other hand, it's not inconceivable to think that Wolves could definitely pip them to the post.
I think Wolves are going to climb themselves out of there. I think at least with maybe a draw at home.
Yeah, if they get a draw, some good points there for the upset. I see what you're doing. Yeah, edging your bets.
All right. What do you think? Do you think United will beat them in the end, or
they seem to have found a little bit of form at the moment?
Yes.
If I was going to put hard cash on it, I'd probably bet on a Man United win outside, maybe a draw. But I'm not sure that I would go all the way and say that Wolves. Wolves are at the bottom of the table for a reason.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, they are at the bottom of the table for a reason. If you don't win games, you're likely to be at the bottom of the table.
I still think that everything that is happening to Wolves goes back to the season when we beat them twice and we just broke them. Do you know what I mean? Not to mention, we played in the cup game as well.
Tony really feared them. Tony really feared them last season, and we broke them. Yeah, we broke them.
They've never been the same since, man.
We all remember that guy behind the glass screen, don't we? Freak the Wolves guy. Alonso, Wolves at home to United.
I go for a draw here. I think it was a 1-1 draw.
All right, cool.
Rudy's going. Like Rudy agrees. He says 1-0 Wolves.
Yes, I think.
You know what's funny about that is that Ruben Neves hasn't been the same since then. I don't think.
Look at Mr. Tom's comment. It says Wolves have scored half as many goals as Haaland. That's mad, isn't
it? And I think Chelsea have scored as much goals as Haaland has scored, or Haaland has scored more than Chelsea for the season as well. So, draw, which is a good result for Wolves. Okay, what are you getting, Alonso? United or
Wolves? Draw. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Wolves are the founding members of the Celebration Police. Next one up, Alonso. Man City at home to Everton. Can it happen? Probably not.
No, I think City have too much for Everton. Everton are also on the bottom of the table, so there's reason for that as well. Who's that?
Frank, 17th place.
Who's that guy that's very good? Who's a midfielder for them? Number 10.
Everton. Oh,
the young kid.
The young kid. Yeah, Gordon.
Anthony Gordon, right?
Yeah.
I feel sorry for him really because he makes that team go, and if he doesn't do well, the team doesn't do as great. I mean, Connor Cody, man, that guy is so much. He's a good center back.
Yeah.
And I think him leaving Wolves was even a better mistake. But we weren't playing time, so.
It's funny because a few years ago I wanted Arsenal to sign Cody a few years ago, but obviously he's faded away a little bit.
You got Ben White instead.
That's you, Alon. That's you, Stan, right?
No, that wasn't me.
But yeah, I mean, in a way, I feel bad for guys like that who have talent, and Everton are just not doing that great. And I remember a couple of years, whenever Arteta were playing for them, they were pretty much a good team. But now, just to see them struggling, it's not good for the league, I guess,
Definitely. Lampard will be axed. Haaland's in hunting mode, Stan. So, Alonso and Stan, I think City win that game. Haaland is in hunting mode. If he bleeds, they can die. Right, I'm doing a predator thing. Okay, Fulham at home to Southampton. Stan
Fulham.
9th versus 20th.
Fulham. Southampton are
Yeah,
finished.
you know what? I was hitching my car to Southampton for a little bit, but they failed me too many times. So Fulham's going to beat Southampton. Alonso.
I think Southampton win this game.
Which one you have to give? You give a fuck. Which is your give a fuck game? Just because Tony's not here.
This is my. I deeply care about so passionately about game of the week. Southampton is going to beat Fulham because for some reason every year we think Southampton is going to go down, right? But then they get a couple of wins together and boom, they're back in the game. So yeah, this is like I care match. This is my I care about deeply match of the week.
This is that match that even when I watched the highlights over here of Match of the Day, because I can log into the BBC iPlayer thing. This is the sort of game I'll fast forward through this one.
Yeah.
I was dead.
Really, I think it's scary that Tony.
You get highlights. I still want to get past
it. But you get what I mean? Like every year, Saints go, they're bottom of the table, and for some reason they get themselves out of it by going this massive win streak. Nobody cares about. But at the end of the season, they're out of the regulation zone, and then they're back in it, right? So it's like every year. So you never know. Okay.
We all think Fulham's going to beat Southampton.
I don't.
Gary picked up 3 points from the last set of games, so he's actually pushed a little bit past me. He's dropped me down into 5th place. So, Stan, you're in 3rd place.
Did anyone get points last week? By any
Gary picked up 3 points. Brentford and Tottenham drawing that game. Okay, Gary has picked Bournemouth. This is Gary's pick. Bournemouth to beat Palace. I think Palace are going to win that game. I think. Mm-hmm. Patrick Vieira hasn't really been getting results lately.
Palace reminded me of what Southampton were. Southampton used to be a team, again, a jack-in-the-box team where one week, to a team that you think they should get something out of, they'd lose. And then the following week, they'd play a team where you think, oh, I don't fancy them, and then they'd win. And I think Crystal Palace have kind of gone like that. They don't seem to have consistency. They're not consistently bad, and they're not consistently good. So... yeah, Gary might be onto something with that one. So I might have to go back and consider my pick.
I've analyzed Gary's strategy, and he's picked a 14th place team to beat an 11th place team. He's gone for 3 points, but he's gone for that close possibility where he can. We're all looking for big points differential. Gary's holding it on a 3-pointer, and he's
Gary's invasion is village by village. Right? You know what I mean? Where the rest of us are just running onto the beach and trying to take the whole fucking place.
But he is trending upwards. So he got 3 points last week.
He's like, small.
He wants another 3 points this week as well. So we'll see what happened there. Alonso, Bournemouth at home to Palace. What do you think? I think Palace will win that game myself. He's frozen, I think.
What has Bournemouth's form been like? Remind me. Not too shabby.
I've won 1 game out of the last 5.
Oh.
Not great.
That's not good, is it?
No. They were beaten by Chelsea last weekend, so fair enough. Chelsea, you know what I mean? But before the break, they beat Everton. A very poor Everton team. So, all right, moving on. We got 4 more to go. Newcastle stand at home to Leeds United.
I'm going to go with Newcastle at the moment. I dislike the football that they're playing at the moment. They seem to be getting better and better. You know, I think
I
it could
don't
be a.
think that bubble's
And
gonna
I'm not just saying this to be kind to Mr. Tom, but there could be a draw. But I don't see Newcastle losing the game. I think Newcastle are going to get something out of this game. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's only a point.
No.
What? What are you
There's
saying? No.
Because I maybe disagree, and maybe I'm hoping and wanting Newcastle to drop some points. And I told Tom that he would.
Leeds has come across like a team that they're always going to be. You know what I mean? If the score's 5-4, they're the team that scored 4. If it's 3-2, they scored 2. If it's 10-9, they scored 9. They always, you know what I mean? They're like, there's some exciting stuff to watch there, but for whatever reason,
Tom needs some hope, Stan.
They always let a goal in.
Tom needs some hope. It's going to be very tough to go up to Newcastle and for Leeds to get anything. But I hope to get a draw. I'm going to go for a draw, but it's not my pick. But I'm going to go for a draw. Alonso, Newcastle at home to Leeds.
I'm like you, Ray. I'm going for a draw because, I think Leeds should win. Why is Tyler Adams hurt?
Why is Tyler Adams what?
Why is Tony Adams what?
He's dancing.
Tyler Adams.
Tyler Adams. I don't know why he's injured. Mr. Tom, you better know, Mr. Tom. You better know.
Anyway, so yeah, I think Leeds are due for positive results. I'm hoping that Leeds somehow get a win, but I'm going for a draw.
Yeah. I just think Stan, Newcastle are playing out of their skin, and it's got to stop. At some point, it's got to stop, right?
Well, they're at home as well, right? You know, they've got the 2-0 behind them. You know, as I say, I think that maybe a draw, but I just don't see Newcastle losing this game.
Yeah. And of course, we would like Leeds to soften them up a little bit because we play Newcastle next week. Okay, we're skipping over Brighton, Arsenal. We'll get to that last. Tottenham at home to Aston Villa. Stan, you and Alonso have both picked this one.
Yeah, I just think that Tottenham at the moment, for me, they've been winning games that they've been fucking so sneaky and lucky to win that they start off their games terribly. You know, go behind and they manage to just scratch it back. And I just think that at some point, that's something that cannot be sustained. If you're playing good football and winning, that's constant. You know what I mean? That, a team's in a groove. But when you're playing and you're literally like your fingertips are on the edge of the cliff and you're just hanging in there, there's only so long. At some point, you're just going to have to lose your grip. You know, I don't see them improving. You know, you're watching them play and it's the same all the time. You don't see them getting better. Yeah. You don't see the improvement of them. Oh, they're getting hold of the games a little bit more now. Oh, okay. They're getting, they're starting off on the front foot. I think that they've been incredibly lucky to be not even lower where they are. Yeah. And I think that Unai Emery, I think he's a canny manager. It didn't work out. It didn't work out with us, but I think he's a canny manager and he can get a team to play. And I think he knows Tottenham as well.
Yeah. And there's going to be a little bit of edge there. He might want to, just because of his Arsenal roots, beat Tottenham. So a good shot there. Aston Villa, Tottenham. Alonso, Tottenham at home to Aston Villa?
Yeah, I mean, this is an upset pick because, I saw how tough Villa's played against Liverpool. And I think Ollie Watkins is still a good player for them. And also Buendia. So they have a lot of good talent there. And I think Tyrone Mings has also been playing pretty well since being across England's team last weekend, rather. Though they got beat pretty bad. But to think about it, that set yesterday night score around was pretty cool strike. With that said, I think Aston Villa have a lot of fight in them. I think that they've been playing pretty good football since Gerrard left. So there's been talent there that shouldn't be taken.
They gave Liverpool a decent game as well.
Can I just say, Lonnie, we all know who you are. You can take your badge off, mate.
Villa win against Spuds, draw at worst from the Arsenal Misfits. Stevens here. Good to see you. Listen, Mr. Tom said, to be fair, no one saw Leeds beating Chelsea or Liverpool. So there's a possibility they could get up for these big games. They didn't turn up against City. Okay, the last one pretty much then. Nottingham Forest at home to Chelsea. 19 versus 8.
Yeah, again, at Chelsea, is it?
It is at Nottingham Forest.
Oh, is that Nottingham Forest? Again, this could be one where you could see a draw.
Yes, definitely.
You know, this could be a game where you could see you know, it wouldn't surprise me or shock me if it was a draw.
Yeah.
That Nottingham Forest managed to just get something out of it at home.
Yeah, Alonso, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, I stand it though. I want Forest to stay up. And there's plenty of time left in the season to rectify that. And Chelsea have not been playing very well at all lately. Well, before the break there. So, you know, I'm hoping, you know, Forest stay up. I think Forest stay up for sure, but you know, I stand that this can go a draw as well. So, yeah. I think Chelsea have a lot of work to do in order to be respectable again. So you never know.
Yeah, exactly. Chelsea, I don't know. They don't convince me at all, but we'll see what happens. So let's wrap this up in a few minutes here. Thanks, Stan, for joining. Thanks, Alonso, for getting here in the nick of time. Gary didn't make it. Tony didn't make it. So I'm wondering where Tony is. But Brighton, Stan, Brighton versus Arsenal. This time last year it was a horrible, wet, rainy day, and somebody put it on Twitter about the weather report. I was like, I've been doing this. I was doing that a year ago, you know. But it's reported that we're going to have rain again on Saturday for the Brighton Arsenal game. It shouldn't really affect the game. Both teams have to play with those conditions, right?
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, I know that we spoke earlier, and a couple of guys in the chat box mentioned that, you know, we've had a tough time, you know, over the last few seasons against Brighton. But as I said, we're not the same team anymore.
Yeah. Do you subscribe to bogey team?
Sometimes you always get a team that gives you a little bit of trouble for some reason. I always remember Robbie Fowler always used to give us trouble when he was at Liverpool, right? You have these, you know, but we're not the same beast that played them before, and we are the team that's in the ascendancy. And on the back of the last result, I don't see anything that makes me think that we shouldn't be able. I'm not saying that we will. I'm saying that we shouldn't be able to get all 3 points and break another hoodoo, so we can turn around and say, well, they're not a bogey team, are they? They're just a team. Another team.
Big shout out to everyone in the UK right now watching us. It's 4:20 in the morning. 4:20, and Mr. Bungle usually goes to the bathroom at this time, checks in with us. As always, my sleeping pattern hasn't gone for a swing over this holiday period. We're thankful that you're here with us, though, as well. Ty, we must not forget it's been raining. That's what Ty used to say. 4:20 is a great time. Alonso, final thoughts then on Brighton, Arsenal, or anything else you want to add in the next 2 minutes, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 years. I've only been here since 3 years now. Ray, so you know, thanks for having me, and it's been a pleasure being on your podcast. Look forward to it every week. If I'm working, then you know why. I'm on late or don't show up at all. Stan, it's been a pleasure, man. You know, podcasting with you for the past 2-3 years. Yeah, I mean, I'm positive about the result. Right now, it was a good game. But you know, I think we've improved. Like Stan said, we're a different team. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a win. I say 3-1 to Arsenal.
Weather is great for Ben White's tackles back at Brighton. Back at Brighton as well. Ben White will want to do well there. Okay, we'll leave it there, Stan. Alonso, we had a good chat tonight. 4 years anniversary. Rest in peace, Pele, legend. I don't know if you knew that, Alonso.
I did. Yeah.
Arsenal's a different beast as well. You know,
Mhm.
I'm minded
And
about.
also on another note, you know, raise a drink for Big Mick Carter, R.I.P. Mick Carter.
Exactly.
He was the landlord of the Queen Vic in Albert Square.
I didn't know that.
No, you don't watch EastEnders then, no? Okay.
One of the benefits of moving away from Ireland.
We watch it in Canada, mate. My missus is
like
addicted
EastEnders.
to. My missus is Canadian, and she's addicted to EastEnders.
Is it up to date, Stan, or is it 3 years, or is there a gap of 3 years or something, or is it up to
No,
date?
I watch it like on the day. My missus loves
Cheers,
it.
Mr. Tom. You're in the circle now, Mr. Tom. Pull up a chair. Everyone's welcome. All right. Yeah, I think Saturday is another test. Are we mentality monsters? If we are, we go to Brighton and it becomes a routine win again, like 14 other games. Is it 14? 13 other games that we won today. So they killed off Mick. Thunder Road didn't know. Spoiler alert, was it?
It was a couple of days ago. It's horrible. Danny Dyer. Danny Dyer plays Mick Carter.
All right, Stan. Hope you're enjoying.
Basically, he got lost at sea. Horrible.
That's going to be it. Brighton is going to be the end of 2022. We'll be into 2023 on Sunday. We're getting out of here. Any final thoughts from both of you?
Yeah, I just want to say 4-year anniversary Arsenal Fan Circle. I think I've been a part of it now for 3 years, is it, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 years or 3 years? Great to be a part of it, and a big thank you to everyone that comes in on a Thursday and a Sunday. You know, it's always the same names that come in and have a chat with us. It feels like
except for why not?
Except for why not? And yeah, we're gonna have to put his picture on milk cartons. See if anyone can give us a lead. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe why not is Tony.
But for me, but for me on a Thursday and a Saturday with everybody, not just the panel, but everybody in the chat room, it's you know, like going down a pub and just shooting the breeze about Arsenal for a couple of hours. So thank you to everyone that comes in. And, you know, if you haven't subscribed, drop a like, do all the usual things to try and get a few more people to come in and find out what we're doing here. But, you know, 4 years in the bag and onwards and upwards. Maybe at the end of this season, we'll be lifting the trophy.
That's it. Life is good. We've seen one FA Cup, but we want more. A title challenge is great. Getting into the Champions League will be great. And maybe having a real go in the Champions League in the next couple of years. But I'd love to win that title this season when we have an opportunity. So bring in Baldrick. Mikel Arteta, bring in Baldrick.
Yeah, by the time we speak again, we might have, you know, we could have a concrete signing done. Who knows?
I'll be Blackadder if he's going to be Baldrick.
Yeah, I have a cunning plan.
I have a cunning plan. It involves Erling Haaland. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Take care. We're out of here.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.